gavel.
Yeah, all right, fine. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. This meeting will be recorded by PAC TV. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the Duxbury Government Access Channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9, and viewers can visit pactv.org/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. With that, I call this meeting to order, and our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have open forum. We do have a busy agenda today. If you could keep your remarks brief. We can't respond to them because they are not agenda items, and we could certainly consider putting them on a future agenda. With that, is there anybody with open forum? Oh, great. Board members. I will go right to left. If
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Just two very quick things. I wanted to thank everybody who participated in the litter sweep. I totally appreciate that. And secondly, and maybe this is going to be under the town manager report, but I wanted to recognize, I had read that Jimmy Tugas was retiring from the police department after many, many years of service to the town. He's a great guy, a friend. We'll miss him, and I thank him. That's it. Thank you.
pass these down. Give that one. This one.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Brian, did
All right.
you have?
Yes, I just wanted to echo what Amy said about the litter sweep. Wanted to thank Wendell Cerny and his team. I believe that the folks picked up approximately half a ton of litter from the streets, and that's a twice annual cleanup, by the way. And thanks to Sheila and her team at the DPW pulling it all together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anybody from the public? Thank you very much. With that, we will start new business, and we have our first item here. We have some guests for an ARPA check presentation from our Plymouth County Treasurer, Tom O'Brien.
Chair, if it's all right, we're going to turn it over to the Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, Jared Fallon, go first.
Excellent.
You want us here?
If you could go to the microphone, that way we can pick up the sound. Thank you for joining us, Chair Valenzuela.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the membership, it is a pleasure to be here. Is that all right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Usually, I've never been told that I'm not picked up on by a microphone. So. My name is Jared Valenzola. I'm Plymouth County Commissioner and Chair, joined this evening by Treasurer Tom O'Brien. And it's always a pleasure and privilege to be in Duxbury and to be able to present you folks with cumulative 5 checks totaling $827,059. As folks may recall, the last 3.5 years we've been managing 2 federal programs. First, the CARES Act, which concluded at the end of 2021, and now ARPA. Before I get into just my remarks, I do want to send the regrets of Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Hanley. They both couldn't be here this evening, but they are staunch supporters of this program and certainly enjoy the partnership that we have with the town of Duxbury. And certainly, this program can't be successful without the community's participation. We're only as good as the partnerships that we've been able to build with the communities. Rainey, Mary, the entire team here in Town Hall has been a pleasure to work with. Usually Treasurer O'Brien gets to work with them, so I don't want to go too far into that. I also like to leave something for him to say, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. They usually fill in the gaps. We are also grateful for the partnership that we have in the legislature. Senator Patrick O'Connor, informally Representative Josh Cutler, and I know Rep. Lenatra just recently lost Duxbury, so just a shout out to them, the 3 of them, collectively calling me, calling the Treasurer, making sure that Duxbury is receiving their fair share. And as folks may recall, there was some consternation about the county's ability to do these funds, and this is the first time that I think we've been able to present to a full board in the last few years. So just a brief update. When CARES was passed, the prior administration, governor, did not like the idea of Plymouth County administering those funds to a point where a lot of pressure was put on the county and a lot of pressure was put on communities to not allow the county to do that. In the final analysis, Duxbury and every community in Plymouth County received 50% more dollars than like-sized communities outside the county. You received it quicker than any other community did outside the county, and we did it for less than 1%, which was recognized nationally, and that is a testament, especially to the work that the Treasurer's team did to ensure that we kept that. I think it was 0.89%. That was recognized by the Treasury, that was recognized by Congress, and the National Association of Counties as one of the lowest administrative costs. That meant more money for Duxbury. As we pivoted into ARPA, we were buoyed by the fact that our brethren in Barnstable, Norfolk, and Bristol counties joined us. We've been able to execute those savings again. We do that because we have a wonderful team that we get to work with. Again, the Treasurer's office, Treasurer O'Brien's office, his special assistant, as well as the staff in the Commissioner's office. These funds have been used, the highest and best use has been the infrastructure projects that I know you have listed here, as well as other matters that you guys have tended to. So with that, I'll turn it over to Treasurer O'Brien, because again, as I suspect, I may have missed something, but he is always excellent at filling in those gaps. And again, it's always a pleasure to be here with you folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's exciting for me to be back, Plymouth County Treasurer Tom O'Brien. Some of you may remember years ago, I had the pleasure of serving as a state representative for a portion of Duxbury. So I love coming back to these communities and delivering good news. As the chair mentioned, we very much value our partnerships. We thank our federal delegation for their work, making sure that counties are able to administer these funds. Very important. Our friends in the state legislature, already mentioned by Commissioner Valenzola. Special shout out, though, of course, to Representative Cutler, who has left the legislature and now is the Undersecretary of Labor and Workforce Development. His partner in the House, Kathy Lenatra, and Senator O'Connor. They have been staunch advocates for this program and a pleasure to work with. As was mentioned too, you have a fantastic team here in Duxbury. I'm not telling you something you don't already know, but when it comes to making sure this is done right and done well, with Rainey and with Mary McKinnon and with Nancy and the rest of the team, it's going to happen the way it should happen. Just to give a quick highlight what these funds are for, you have a number of projects. 148,120 of the dollars are for the Bluefish River Sewer Lift Station repair. $43,240 are for the wastewater treatment facility to replace 2 actuators. $60,700 are for PFAS remediation at the Tremont Depot Street well. $89,999 were used to purchase 2 vehicles for beach operations. And then the big amount of money, $485,000, was used for the McNeil Dump Comprehensive Site Assessment. And this is just the first of a few presentations that we'll be making. You have a number of other submissions through the program, and we look forward to coming back and bringing even more money. You folks have said that we have to make sure we bring at least $750,000 each time, so we had to wait to accrue that. We obviously met that obligation here and are thrilled to be here to provide these resources. Because if we don't do these things, they have to come out of other parts of your budget. Yeah. And those are hard decisions that now you don't have to make because we are able to come in and you folks are saying, hey, let's get these projects done. They're important to the town, they're important to our residents, and we're just glad to be a resource and a value add to the program. So it's really great for me to be here this evening, for us to be here. We're thrilled to present a check. I know the commissioner has one more thing because we don't come empty-handed. Not only do we bring a check, but we have another gift that we'd like to share with you. So let me bring Commissioner Valenzola back to the microphone.
Thank you, Treasurer. So before the meeting with Select Board Member McNabb, Vice Chair McNabb, and others, we were talking about some of the history of the county. And believe it or not, we are 400-something years old, although the county itself was formed in 1685. Only recently did we decide that we needed to have a flag as well. So we sent out a call to the communities, and Duxbury was one of the ones that said, yeah, we would really like a flag. So we have a county flag. It is more or less my pin, just on a flag. So we were very creative in the making of the flag, but just some fun little notes. There are 27 pearls around the Mayflower, which is, of course, on the flag. The 27 pearls are each representative of the member communities that are in Plymouth County. So we're happy to bring a flag as well. I know most people care about the money, but that's why we tack the flag on with the money, because really it's about the money, isn't it? So with that, I don't know if there's any questions through you, Mr. Chairman, if anybody has any
I'll
questions or
start with my
comments.
board members. Or we'll go right to left here.
This is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, no
Our
questions.
pleasure.
Yes, no
Rainey, you
questions.
want to say
I will say, I know I've been there since this whole thing started, and I was one of the people who were wondering, how's this all going to work? Because there's a lot of money to be handled. But I will say, whatever compliments you get from anybody out there, they are well-deserved and amplified here by 100-fold, because you guys have been on the mark every single time. We've received checks in the parking lot, over the past few summers. This is the first time we've received them inside. It's kind of nice. But I deeply appreciate all the work you guys have done, and whatever accolades you receive, you richly deserve them. I can tell you that. But
Well, we
thank you
appreciate
very,
that.
very much.
Thank you. One of the big things, and I forgot to note it if I just for a minute, other communities out in the Commonwealth, and I know, Rainey, you're probably intimately aware of this, when they received money from the state, they were also given the regulations and said, hey, make sure this complies. And then when the state finally looked at the regulations and realized that may not have complied, they clawed money back. And that's a big thing. We didn't claw back any funds through CARES. We're not going to claw back any money through ARPA, because we were able to have that system in place. Again, a lot of that work goes to the treasurer. I'm lucky I just get to sign the check and sign the packet. But that was a big thing for us. And one of the things that I do like to emphasize, your constituents are our constituents. We're elected by the same people. We work for the same people. And that's, again, not a put down at the state, but the state's a big state, and they have major cities that have a lot of concerns and put a lot of demands and a lot of stress on the state. And a lot of the smaller to medium-sized communities like Duxbury, frankly, would have been left behind a little bit had the state managed both programs. So we're really proud to have that partnership, and we're local. We're accountable to the same people that you folks are. So it's a great partnership, and it's a great team, and we're grateful for it.
And I appreciate you being so accessible all the
Yeah,
time,
of
because
course.
Tom and I have called each other at weird hours and weird days. And,
I thought you were going to tell people about that.
no, it was all for this. It was all good. It was all good, but it all worked out really well. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I'll echo those statements as well. I've been on this board kind of at the edge of the pandemic, and was on the Plymouth County Advisory Board for that time, and really appreciated the advice that you gave our communities when John Adams was here, now with Mary and Nancy and Rainey, about how to allocate those funds, and also your crystal ball about how we would likely be in an inflation type situation now, and to hold on to some of those funds. So we're really appreciative for your guidance, and obviously for the funds. They supported our schools, our first responders, and our communities generally, and our infrastructure, and it's been a huge help to this town. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We could just find a way to keep them going.
Picture with all of you?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So I would like to thank Plymouth County. I know there have been a lot of accolades here tonight, but I'm the one that has been working directly with you to administer the program. And I cannot say enough kind words about your staff and the team that you have assembled.
We'll start at the beginning.
Yes. Say all of that again verbatim.
I will start by saying that the team that you have assembled to work to administer this program and be in the weeds with those of us that are putting together these projects, gathering all of the materials that we need, the team has been not only a pleasure to work with, but their level of expertise has been stellar. Part of our approach to the program has been to start to spend the county funds first before we spend our local allocation, and that is due in large part to the fact that you have assembled a team of not only professionals from Powers and Sullivan, but also from CLA and your staff. We know that there's a thorough review and vetting that's happening with each of these projects, and it's providing the guidance for us to use to apply to our local allocations. So having the ability to go through that exercise with the county first has been fantastic. It's really provided a quality product, and I'd like to thank the county for your stewardship of this program. It's been a great partnership.
If I might, just quickly, Chair.
Of course.
We appreciate that very much. We were thrilled when the other counties decided to partner with us, because that helps drive down the cost, as we having to retain the services of a firm like CLA and Powers and Sullivan, now Markham, and that. But it has certainly relieved a burden at the local level that we've taken on. But I would say it's been a pleasure to work with you as well. And I'm glad to hear that the team is responsive. It's amazing because the state has a huge team. In my office, we have 3 people working on this. And so really, the fact that they work so hard and are available to you is what we like to hear. So it's nice that that's the service you're getting, and it's nice for me to hear those compliments.
And we are going to be talking about approving some more ARPA projects this evening, so we're going to keep you guys busy.
Well, I know that we did extend the deadline out to September 30th, and Rainey was one of those advocating for that to happen, as Mary was. So you got that notice from us, I think, 2 weeks ago.
We did, thank
which
you.
gives you a little bit of flexibility, because we heard from you that's what you were looking for. So that's the value, as the chair added, of being local.
Excellent, thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. And that Publishers Clearinghouse check.
This is happening. Open the flag.
Open the flag?
I know,
You
we got the
treasurer
AC
wasn't
on.
I will
when it should-
say-
My instincts told me we should open the flag.
The chair wanted to open the
Good
flag.
instincts. I like the flag.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
That's cool.
We want you guys
We're gonna
holding.
need-
All right.
And how do we do the flag?
Well, we won't have it upside down.
No.
Won't let it touch the ground. It's not the American flag, so it's, all right. There we are.
All right, do we have, can everybody see everything? Flag.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Excellent.
You can take this back, but don't get the flag, yes.
All right, thank you very much. That's great. Thank you very much indeed.
Our pleasure.
All right.
Nice to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. There we go, official handing of the flag.
Official handing of the flag.
Yeah, it's like Boy Scouts again.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is a discussion and update with Chris Ryan, the former planning director, and Paul
Halkiotis.
Halkiotis, the interim planning director, regarding the following actions to be taken by the board: establishing a Halls Corner working group and establishing an MBTA communities working group. Is the planning board also posted for this? I think at this point, if there's someone from the planning board would like to call the meeting to order for your board, I would say this is the moment to do it.
Are they here or down the hall? Nancy, are they here or down the hall?
They might have had a meeting before here.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Are they going to be contributing to this? I would hope so.
Maybe,
Had a meeting at the
Oh, they did?
yeah, prior to this.
Okay.
I can keep C going.
I don't see,
I don't want to tie up Chris, so we kept him for,
Yeah. I'd go ahead and start with
an
Chris,
hour
and
and
then
a
we can, I'll text Paul in the meantime.
all right. Chris, we don't want to hold you up. You were here for 2 hours last time. So I'll let you take it away and discuss this.
Nice to see you tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And obviously, before I left, there were a number of projects that were really in a position that needed some attention so that they could continue to move forward, because they're based on state grants and contracts that we needed to execute and implement in a reasonable amount of time. There are also projects that I think are critical in terms of requiring some oversight and some public input. So what I did before I left was I put together, well, actually I did this actually later, but I put together some recommendations related to some working groups that I thought would really do a really outstanding job of providing the kind of quick pivoting and giving feedback necessary for our consultants so that they could continue their work and move these projects forward so that they could provide the town with the executing of this in a reasonable amount of time so that we could meet certain deadlines, particularly that related to MBTA communities. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to read these recommendations, starting with the Hall's Corner Advisory Committee or Working Group, whatever you guys choose to call it. The idea was that this was a project that essentially would sort of bring together all the past studies that were done for the area, including the recent work by the OCPC on traffic recommendations, to come up with sort of a comprehensive plan in mini for the Halls Corner area, and really get input from a variety of different stakeholders, so that all the different groups that are interested in the area, whether they be residents or landowners or shopkeepers or anybody else that has an interest in the area, could have some input and really make this plan something special. So provided the select board with some recommendations in terms of groups and organizations that should be perhaps represented on this working group, and also wrote out a committee charge that I thought would be reasonable for carrying that out. And so hopefully, if you have any questions, certainly I'd be willing to answer those questions, but I think this group is necessary to work closely with the consulting firm that was selected, so that they can have a group to bounce ideas off of, and get some feedback so that they can keep moving that project forward, and hopefully have some public meetings down the road that would have some substance to it. So let me stop there and see if you have any questions about this group, and then I can go ahead with the next one after that.
With permission from my fellow board members, do you mind if I jump in here on this particular one, just because I was a liaison with the Economic Advisory Committee spent about a decade on the Halls Corner project or idea. And I know you sat in on one of our meetings and had some good ideas for that group and bringing them involved. And they presented to the planning board, and I can also ask the planning board this. Was this a priority by the planning board to pursue this project after the Economic Advisory Committee had met with them?
I think my conversations with the Economic Advisory Committee did have this as part of our discussion. In terms of sharing with them the grants that I wanted to go after, they did support that. Mm-hmm. So I would say the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. And I guess my point was they kind of wrapped it up for the planning board, presented to them, and said, this is something you should take on to the planning board. And I was wondering if the planning board then came to you and said, this is something we do want to take on.
We had that discussion as well.
Okay. My only other comment is the makeup of that working group. There's some that are kind of, for lack of a better word, earmarked for like business owners and architectural type folks, or is that something that was recommended by the consultant you were working with, or is that something that has some flexibility, to maybe have members at large with a priorities towards having business owners, but I'd love to have them, but there's a lot of them are very busy. I guess my preference would be to have some flexibility there, and even maybe include some of the old EAC members who are business owners.
Absolutely. This is something that I just came up with on my own. Mm-hmm. And so the idea was to have a broad representation of the businesses in the area, economic development, obviously, but also there's going to be some zoning issues, there's going to be some public works issues, mm-hmm. And traffic issues. So my thought was that try to hit all of those check boxes and make sure that, if you want to go in a different direction and have some other folks, obviously they can call in members of, say, for example, DPW on a particular meeting to discuss specific infrastructure issues. So I think there is some flexibility built into it.
Yeah, I had no issue with the highway safety. Obviously, there's traffic issues and DPW. It was more, I wouldn't want vacancies if we just couldn't find folks that wanted to participate. You know, I think the small business community is very strong and, you know, collectively has worked together on some of these projects for the overall good of our small business community. So I just didn't know if we needed to earmark them for, we could almost keep them at large, some of those positions. And that was it.
I think that would be fine.
Okay. Any questions from the board members?
A couple of comments. I agree that I think that there should be some members at large, just residents that don't necessarily live or work in Hall's Corner. I think a diverse group would help this. I've been around long enough to know that there's been quite a few studies of Hall's Corner and what can be done and, you know, what visions are for that area. It is a challenging conversation. There's a lot of parking issues, and so it's a challenging issue. I'm happy to, you know, appoint a committee to go ahead and look at this area again. It's a vital, important area in town. I guess my concern or question or is. Again, I think the select board it's appropriate that we, you know, appoint or form a an advisory committee, but who are they advising to? I'm hoping that they're advising the planning board, because this seems so much of a planning board function, and the appropriate board for them to be advising on this.
Yeah, I think that the planning board, my feeling related to the two groups that we're going to be talking about today is that the planning board should definitely have a significant connection to this project. I felt as though giving them the responsibility of oversight for the project would have been beyond their bandwidth. And I didn't really want that to slow down the project. But I think that having, building into the charge that they would report to the planning board on a regular basis, I think is a great thing to do. And so ultimately, the ultimate report that's done certainly could take a first pass through the planning board before being maybe adopted by the select board, if that's how you want to do it. So it really is up to you how you want to deal with those more micro issues. But my thought was that it needed to be outside of the planning board in terms of a day-to-day, because they just can't be nimble enough to give the kind of feedback and provide the kind of information to the consultant that they would need on a regular basis to continue to move forward.
Thank you. I just want to be cognizant of the fact that we are a linear form of government. They are an elected board. This seems very much to be in their wheelhouse, if you will, and you know, certainly part of what I would expect the planning board to be doing. So I don't want to be stepping on anyone's toes or taking on something onto our platter which is extraordinarily full. So I just want to make sure that we think about that as we go through these committees tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just to address your question, Amy, I agree that we shouldn't appoint a committee for the sake of appointing a committee. However, the deliverable, as I understand it, and Chris, thanks for all your terrific work on this. The proposal's very detailed and well thought through. I believe. And I know you put a lot of work into it, so I want to thank you for that. There'll be a final report to the planning board and the select board, but I agree it should be the planning board sort of overseeing the work in progress, because that's definitely a planning function. But where presumably it will result in zoning changes and those sorts of policy level concerns, that would come to us and then to town meeting for final approval. So I think the proposal itself is a great idea, and I also want to note that it dovetails well with what else we're going to talking about, the MBTA Communities Working Group, given that Hall's Corner is a backup location on the map for proposed MBTA communities. So it's going to be talked about one way or another. So it's appropriate, I think, to have a group specific to Hall's Corner, especially, as you note, Amy, with all the many reports. It would be nice to finally do something with those reports and studies through a final report and some recommended steps and a timeline.
I couldn't agree more. It's 2014 when we last did the economic study and the transportation study, so it'd be good to get them updated and worked on.
I did see our
Let's say
planning
one
board.
other thing.
Go right ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I think one of the extra benefits of this particular project is that there will be a recommendation on a zoning overlay for the area. I think this is something that is in our master plan and has been talked about for some time. And so I think that's one of the great deliverables that is due from this, not just a plan that's going to sit on a shelf, but actually a set of actionable recommendations plus a draft zoning overlay. So I think that's a really special part of this.
Yeah. I did see the planning board pop in. I was wondering if you wanted to open your meeting. I had one question about this about this Hall's Corner working group, if you wanted to open your meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Casagrande.
Apologize for our delay. We got a little busy in our meeting.
You're fine.
So, we'd like to reconvene the meeting of the Planning Board, now relocated at a joint meeting with the Select Board as of, what time did we get here? 7:32.
Great.
And you had a question for me?
Yeah. and
Okay.
We were all on the Economic Advisory Committee.
Yes.
And you were present when they presented to the Planning Board. Is it the pleasure of the Planning Board to pursue this, to have this working group for the Hall's Corner formed and report to your committee?
Yes.
Your board?
I think it's valuable. The EAC has been a little less active in recent times. We're struggling to get some people even to be on that board. So I think this is a good idea. This is a project area that we've looked at projects in the past. We had a redevelopment overview of the entire area that showed what new construction in there could look like and everything else. So we do have somewhat of a basis to go on. I think the future may support more potential in the future now to be doing some things down there than maybe 10, 15 years ago with the different properties that are there. So I think it could be a very valuable working group. And again, their product obviously would come back to the Select Board and the Planning Board, but we obviously would like to have, if we just do this at the Planning Board level and it's just all of us on the Planning Board and we get whatever input we can get from people who get interested and show up to it. But I think with a working group, we'll have some more citizens at large involved, which would be great. And then we can it'll be easier for us to do that outreach with everybody versus just, being the board on that piece of it. So I think a couple of these projects, MBTA is, the next one is similar situation. Is Hall's Corner as dire or imperative a thing to get moving forward as MBTA? No, but I think it's important for us to keep moving that forward. Again, it's potentially one of the it's a backup overlay area for MBTA right now too. So to have the team working on that, I think would be a good idea.
Great. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Chris, did you want to talk about the MBTA Communities
Yes.
Working Group.
Yes, thank you. So, this is something that has been ongoing for quite some time, a couple of years now. And so before I left, we had the opportunity to work with a consultant, Jen Goldson, who actually came up with a compliance model that worked for us for 3 different areas in town. And based on that, I wanted to apply for a grant for actually creating the zoning for those 3 areas. So we did get the grant, and we did hire a consulting firm, the well-known firm of Stantec, which has a lot of experience in working with MBTA communities for a lot of other towns successfully. And so I've been working with Stantec for a number of months now, trying to move them forward as far as I possibly can without additional input from either this working group or some other entity. And so the idea was to come up with an advisory committee that was representing a number of different areas in town that I've had experience in other communities that really have those types of structures, and it's worked very well. And so right now, Stantec is actually kind of on hold until this advisory committee or working group is put together. They're anxiously awaiting this group's formation so that they can share their initial findings. And those initial findings, I think, are quite well suited for the town, because one of them is sort of a minimalist approach that the town could, consider if there's a lot of, I guess, issues with compliance. And, as additional towns like Marshfield go in certain directions, that might be something that increases. And then there's another set of options that is just a little bit more down the center compliant, but also does try to increase some unit capacity in the town. So at this point, Stantec does need this group to be in place so that they can start having those conversations and get some feedback to see, the direction that the town may ultimately want to go in, and so that they can actually start putting the zoning language together in anticipation of a town meeting that I would recommend maybe the town consider for November the 18th, which I believe is a Monday. That gives enough time for the zoning to be put together, and then have some public process in the fall in the lead up to town meeting, because obviously you're not going to get a lot of public process in the summer. So it's going to take a while to put the zoning together once a scenario is agreed upon. And then beginning, say, in September, you could have that fairly reasonable public process leading up to November, if that's what you choose to do. So again, this committee, I think, is going to be important to give that kind of quick feedback on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, so that they can keep moving it forward and keep getting good information from the town in terms of what would likely fly and what probably would be an issue. So that's how this was put together, and very similar charge, and hopefully this is something that you also can see the merit in as well.
Gordon.
Yeah, I just have concern about the timeline. I think this whole issue of the MBTA communities, without engagement with the community, and we try and push it through quickly, I think could be a challenge. And so I think we need to do it at the pace that we can engage with the community and get an understanding of what we're talking about here, and the zoning change, the associated zoning change. I think whenever we come to the annual town meeting with a zoning change, My experience has been that it doesn't often work, that we have to indefinitely postpone. So that's just been my experience at town meeting with zoning, and especially this type of zoning change. I can imagine we need to do a lot of public outreach, make sure that we're all understanding of the issue and in support of what we need to do. So I'm just concerned about the timeline.
Randy, there's some legal timelines. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Chris, we looked at the proposed timeline for a special town meeting, and the date that we landed on would have been Wednesday, October 16th. And the reason for that is because the presidential election this year, well, every presidential election is a lot of work for Susan, but we anticipate that this one will be as much work as the one 4 years ago, particularly with early voting and a whole number of factors. As you know, historically, I'm not speaking for the whole town, but I'm just giving you my anecdotal information. Special town meetings aren't always warmly received. We do them somewhat begrudgingly, but in this case, because of what's at stake here, there's quite a bit. Meaning, if we don't have compliance, it's my understanding that if we aren't compliant by December 31st without having adopted some kind of MBTA zoning, we could find ourselves in the situation that other communities that have recently rejected this proposal of not being able to receive grant funding. And whether it be small or large, grant funding does matter to all of our communities. So we're kind of over a barrel, as I see it right now, in that we kind of have to do this, correct? That's my understanding. We got to have this adopted by December 31st of this year?
That's correct. And one of the reasons why I had recommended the 18th of November is that it puts it past that election timeline, and you're not caught in the tailwind or the wind leading up to the election in mid-October, which you rightly state that there's going to be a lot of the town clerk is going to be preoccupied with the write-in voting and that type of thing. So if that's at all possible, that's the date that we've selected in the town that I'm working in right now, for the exact same reasons you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of give you the idea of the two-pronged approach, if you felt like the only way that this could be done was by choosing the minimalist approach, which is just barely, making compliance based on, paper units, that essentially would probably never get built. That's a way to go. I mean, obviously, it's something that is not the ideal solution, but from a standpoint of passing it at town meeting, it's something that you might be able to get a lot more traction on with the little bit of time that's available right now.
Mm. Well, I'm not recommending we make a motion on that tonight. But
no, we're just talking about the committee and forming a committee.
And the issues that the committee will face.
That's the more pressing thing.
Yeah. I agree. Zoning is a big issue, and the town needs to have the time and the information to be educated, especially with this type of zoning change where the impacts are enormous. That being said, why not push it out till March? I understand there's a compliance, but I fear a special for this. And I think part of what we need to understand as a board and what the town needs to understand is what are the implications. We know that towns like Marshfield and Milton are rejecting this type of thing. I personally think it's punitive. I think it's I'm offended that the state is requiring towns like ours to create zones where densities are required to be out of sight. I find it offensive. I would like to know what is the implication if the town were to reject this? What grants are at stake? How much money are we passing up? In other words, what are the consequences? That's something I don't know. I also think that we need to be thinking about and exploring legal avenues. towns such as our neighboring towns and others are rejecting this, maybe there are ways to join forces, and there's power in numbers, and if enough towns are saying no to this, then, that may be, I think there's a lot to learn here, and I think that a timeline for a November or October special is undoable. Those are my thoughts.
Well, Amy, are you saying that we shouldn't appoint the committee in that case?
No, I think a committee, I just don't
Yeah.
know if we could
We've got
possibly.
enough time.
Yeah, I think
I-
we need a committee
Yeah, be a
regardless
working
of-
group.
Working group, pardon me. I think we need the working group regardless of what we strategically ultimately decide.
Yeah.
As to, I mean, the town meeting's going to vote the way it cares to vote. I mean, we can't force town meeting, and
No, I
the state
definitely think-
presumably is aware of that. But with that said, I do think it's prudent to move forward with the committee, working group, pardon me. And just in turn, you said March for a vote. So did you mean November?
No, I mean, regular town meeting's
Regular
in
town-
March,
Okay,
and,
all right.
you know.
Because that would be a legal issue we'd have to work with town council on, because that would be after the compliance date of 12/31.
Would be the work of the working group to establish the pros and cons of every decision that we make, right? And so maybe that's part of the task of that working
Well,
group.
I think that's just a legal issue that town council, I think, can advise us on, that if it's either, if you either approve it or you don't.
Well, no, but
And if you don't, we just need to know what those implications are.
But Chris Ryan kind of intimated that there could be a paper zoning, right? Where you say you're zoned, but everybody knows that you're not going to do anything about it, right? So I don't understand that's the implication I heard from Chris, right? Yeah. That's one of the options that could come up there, is we pay, we play at it, right? And I don't know. I mean, this is what we need to look at. And at the end of the day, I said it gets decided at town meeting. Those are the options ahead of us. That's what we need to look at, and the pros and cons of each of these options.
Is our interim planning director here?
Yes.
Paul Halkiotis is right there.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Could I ask you to pop up there for a second?
About the timeline. Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to Duxbury. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Again, it sounds like, yes. Is this this type of working group, is this something you would like to see here as the planning director that's kind of primarily be in charge of this?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Ryan that this is a good approach to put together a group with representation from various boards and committees and citizens at large to bring different perspectives to the table in a discussion about a very controversial issue. So it shouldn't be done in a vacuum. It shouldn't just be the planning board. I like his suggestion, and I actually, in one of the communities that I worked for a couple of years ago, we made this recommendation. This group was formed in that community. They did their work for a year and a half with lots of outreach meetings, and was successful in getting the zoning approved about a month ago.
Now, with that working group and your experience with that, and we have a short window here. So you have maybe saw some pitfalls there with the makeup of the body, or maybe some successes. Would a working group like this be better to have a little bit more flexibility, aside from somebody from, say, the planning board, ZBA, and select board? Would it make more sense to have some flexibility from having at-large members of the community?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. What would you suggest for a makeup of, or what should this working group be? What kind of people should we be looking for this kind of committee?
I reviewed a memo that the town manager provided to me that I think Mr. Ryan had worked on, and he had a list of potential
Right.
and I think that's headed in the right direction.
Okay.
So for those folks that are experienced with doing zoning work, the zoning board of appeals, the planning board, member from the select board, and looking for some citizens at large,
not on this.
the work that's already been done, the groundwork that Mr. Ryan and their consultants did, have identified a few areas. And perhaps representatives from those areas, those neighborhoods, should be invited to participate because, you know, their voice is very important as this goes forward. I understand that there was a recommendation to schedule a special town meeting in November, and I looked at the date that was suggested, and I think it was Veterans Day. And so then the manager and the town clerk and I had a conversation, and it became apparent that, yeah, it is an election year, and the clerk's office is going to be very busy. And so that discussion focused on, you know, there's a lot of work to do for this election. There's a lot of work to put together a special town meeting, and maybe we should wait until after the election, or before the election, which took us, you know, forward into October. I tried to put together a potential timeline, a schedule of things that would need to take place prior to mid-October, when potentially there could have been a special town meeting, and it's very tight. And I think it's safe to say the more time that there is to educate the community about this mandate from the state, the importance of housing and a variety of housing types, to have that conversation and to accept that input, it is going to take much more time than between now and October. And I hear what you're saying regarding trying to have public outreach sessions during the summer when people already have vacations planned. It's problematic, and we all know what we're going to hear if we get to a town meeting in the fall and people say, well, when did you have those sessions? We were away. So the town's in a difficult spot, and there is a mandate from the state right now to get this done by the end of the year, and so it's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
I think we understand that, right? I think the first thing is we need to put together this working group, and then charge that working group with understanding all these issues and ramifications. If we force this through and we do it in October and the town quite naturally votes no, then what happens next, right? So if we wait until March when we have more time, we're out there by 3-4 months. Again, I don't know. And has anybody approached the state saying we will have this meeting in March? And I don't know. There's lots of stuff that quite frankly we don't have answers to right now. But the thing is, let's put this working group together and let them start answering these questions.
And don't be shy. If we can help in any way with putting this on the agenda, or change the makeup of this group, or provide other
Could we
resources.
talk about the makeup of the group for a
Yeah,
second?
I'd like to, yeah.
Because the makeup of the group right now, and this is for the benefit of everybody sitting out here, it's a planning board member, ZBA member, economic advisory committee member, design professional, housing trust, design review board, select board, and DEI committee. First, I've never liked to see, just as an aside, having people assigned here. I think that we need to go through a process, and it should be transparent, and so I don't know why there's some names here, but that being said, I think those are all fine, but I do think that there needs to be members at large. There are concerned residents that aren't on a board or a committee, and I think they have an important seat at the table.
Go ahead.
Okay. So a couple things with regard to this. A lot of the legwork that Chris did with our consultants on this, I feel we are moved along enough that we have a pretty good product to give to the working group at the same time. We've really identified the only possible locations in town to make this happen. We have 3 primary locations, which I think, Chris, I think that gets us to the goal that the state is looking for, with acreage and location-wise what they are. We have a couple of optionals as well, which the working group would obviously work through that piece of the puzzle, as well as the zoning itself. Our consultant has done that for many other towns. It's probably going to be, each town's going to have pretty identical zoning on what this overlay is going to look like, because it has to meet the state's requirement from from that standpoint. So we have, I think, a good basis for the working group to work on. However, I can tell you, at our meeting that we just had, there are a number of people from the public who would be, it sounds, more than willing to put in their papers to be part of this working group as well, and I think that's very important to have. We don't want to have the working group become unwieldy with 30, 40 people on it, but we need that input. We did have a timeline put together. It's really truncated to do it. People would be attending, the working group would be meeting a lot, and I think it is too much to ask. So I think ultimately the town's going to decide at town meeting to vote up or down, and that decision becomes the select board and the rest of the town's problem if they vote it down, that we have to take that position. By us saying we have to delay it, obviously, I would assume through town council, et cetera, we would go to the state and say, hey, we're jammed up. We haven't had a town planner in a little while. We've been back and forth. We can't get to a vote on this till March. Will they say okay and give us a waiver, or are they going to slap us on the hand like they're doing everybody else? We don't know. We don't know till we ask.
Right.
From that standpoint, if we can get that probably gives us plenty of time, because like I say, we have a good base for the working group to go off of. They're not starting from scratch. So if we can get that would be great. If they say no and we just say we're not going to be ready in time, that's the equivalent of us at the town level, at the select board level, et cetera, management of the town saying we're not doing it. That's probably how the state will take that, and they'll suspend whatever they have to do until we vote on it. And I assume that's what's happening. So I don't see what else we can do.
We don't know what that is.
We don't know
what the consequences are.
We don't know what the
We
consequences
don't know the consequences. It could be 3 months and then we vote, whatever, and then if the town votes for it, we get it back. I don't
As
know.
December gets closer, they may push it out another year. They've already pushed this thing out a few times.
Right.
Right? And Chris, they've pushed this out multiple times, haven't they?
In terms of the deadline?
The deadlines, yeah.
No, the only deadline they pushed out was for rural adjacent communities, which are smaller than 6,000.
Okay.
So that's the only deadline that they've changed. It was based on feedback that they got when the guidelines were first developed.
Oh, okay. I thought we've got pushed back on this at some point too, but I guess not. So,
Just going back to Amy's question about the makeup, my view would be to keep this as flexible as possible, beyond just to simply have a select board member, zoning board member, and a planning board member, and then the remaining being at large, and obviously trying to identify people like that Chris said. And I know there's been some outreach to people that might be interested, but yes, to be more transparent, to people want to fill out a talent bank form, just like we do for every other committee, so that we can get people that want to be on these and have some flexibility, as opposed to saying you have to be on the design review board or something to be on this committee, because we'll have vacancies, or there'll be people that'll feel like we've kind of earmarked these seats.
yeah. And the idea with the meeting group would also be, in the schedule we were just looking at that we're trying to put together, there'd be all along the route public meetings. And obviously, the meeting group is a public hearing group to begin with, so anybody that wants to attend can attend those meetings as well, but there's in the schedule routinely having the public outreach groups. And that's similar to what we did with the comprehensive plan for the town. You have to do that. You have to have that outreach, or you don't get anywhere in the end. And this is one of those things. We could do all of that. We could have all of this discussion. We can put together the bylaw and everything else. And there is a good chance, like what happened in Marshfield, that the overall town just says no, which is basically a kickback to the state to say, no, we're not in favor of this. We go through all this effort to do everything. So this is what we kind of need to think about. We do have a good basis. We have sites that are our sites. I can't come. We did a lot on this. I don't know that there are any other sites we're going to come up with in town that are either remotely good for this type of a situation. We can get from our consultants what the bylaw would be, and we could bring it to town meeting early in a town meeting. And I mean, my feeling is it's probably going to be voted down no matter how good we make the thing and how much outreach we do on it.
Well, and I don't think that you should consider it this working group is an advisory group for the town. They're gathering the information and coming up with sites and a proposal to put before the town. Whether town meeting votes it up or down is not shouldn't be, you know, whether that group is successful or not. I believe that this town is going to have a real tough time adopting this type of density anywhere in our town. So, but you know, certainly I don't think that these people who are willing to serve on this group is doing the town a favor by gathering information, helping to educate the resident town meeting voter so that they can make an informed decision. It shouldn't be a win or lose for them.
No, and it's absolutely not. I mean, it's up to the town on what we do there, and I mean, it's very likely to be people in the group that vote it down at town meeting. I mean, that could easily be too. It all depends. This is a different situation than us working on our normal zoning bylaws and everything else. We're being pushed into this by the state. We have to do something. We have to come up with something that's reasonable and would pass with the state as far as if it's something we put through, and that's really what the working group needs to put together with the consultants. So as I'm saying, it could be truncated, and we could get to that point where we would have something for a special town meeting to be able to say to the state, hey, we had the vote and we voted it down, now what? You know, that's kind of the situation we could end up in. So we could go either way. And I think it'd be interesting to know what the state says if we said we can't do a town meeting because of the national election. We can't get one done before the end of the year. We have to wait till our March meeting.
Susan just advised me that she could do it on November 18th if we needed to.
Well, that's a ways off. We can.
Yep.
All right.
But in the meantime, we'd like to get the working group together and moving.
Let's get it
All
going.
right, let's get it set up, and I think we can. How would the Rainey and Nancy? What do we need to do as far as setting up how vacancies can be filled and things of that nature?
Well, if you want interested people to fill out a talent bank form, they can find that on the Selectboard page on the website. Email it to me or
Okay.
Michelle.
We don't need to vote on the makeup tonight, or do we?
You
I think
do.
we should.
You do. On what?
Okay.
On how many members you want it to be and where you want it to be from.
Okay, and the charge.
Yep.
Things I already see for instance, the whole corner advisory committee, there's some names that don't, I mean, David.
Well, no, I don't
Butchers-
want to do names.
These
we're just
were,
doing-
We're not
these were
voting names.
suggestions
We're just-
that Chris had offered.
Okay,
that's
good.
all.
So basically the makeup of it, not the people.
Correct.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
excellent. No, just thanks for the clarification.
No, and I do think it's important, a planning board member, a ZBA member, and a select board member are critical.
Yep. And you're talking about the MBTA.
The MBTA, yes.
And for the Halls Corner,
I mean,
I
think-
agree with that.
I think it would be, I think it would be helpful if some of these other folks, but they're already on a border committee, so I don't want to make
I agree.
it a requirement that a member of the design review board be on this,
Yep.
where there might be an interested member at large as a community member that it would be perfect. So I think some flexibility there would be wise.
How do you feel?
So I don't want to deviate too much from what Chris presented. We've had this for a little while, so I don't know that we need to do a whole ton of work to it. I think the most expedient way to do this, and I appreciate the input that you provided about members of the public. I do agree that's important. Something that just comes to my mind is if we're going to say it's three particular boards that are going to be represented, if the quorum was supposed to be 8, then perhaps the remaining 5 ought to be the public, unless that's
Correct.
Members at
wieldy.
large.
But-
That's fine.
But that way, we don't have to do too much work to, the hard work that Chris has already put in terms of the charge and all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't want to get
So-
into that.
But by the other hand, on the other hand, I don't necessarily, if we think 5 is too many from the public, although I personally don't think we can have too many members of the public, but if you have three folks from a board, should it be 3 from the public to sort of balance it, or do we, if it's 5? I mean, I'm leaning 5 just to keep it consistent with what Chris has put together here. I think is well done.
yeah, I think it's fine.
5, 6, 7, 8. We need odd number.
We need an odd number, yeah.
We need an odd number. That's 8. That's wrong.
Then
So
make it 7.
We need 7.
Yeah, 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Any thoughts on that, Mr. Casagrande? And
Yeah, I
other
mean,
members?
obviously, we need to keep it odd. So also don't know, I mean, with a working group, could have a couple of alternates or,
Yeah.
people that can, if
Probably
there,
have to.
if we get a big turnout people that are interested. And there might be somebody from Design Review Board that does want to participate as well.
Absolutely.
We could add a,
We could always find ourselves, between 7 and 9. I think more than 9, you're getting too cumbersome. That'd be too much.
I see that Chris has already built into here how we replace members if they leave.
Yep.
So,
how do folks feel about the Hall's Corner makeup?
Oh, we're jumping backwards.
Yeah, we got to vote both right now. And we have some questions in the audience, too. My view was Planning Board, ZBA, Highway Safety, and DPW Director. But beyond that, maybe I think.
No property, no Halls Corner property owner?
I think what we should do is part of our charge, recommend that we have business owners, just as we have for like this, we had for like the seawall, we tried to have they tried to get like a person that was in the construction, but, and they tried to have a lawyer. I don't know that we need to earmark it. It's just my view. I'd like to try to, we had trouble getting small business owners on the EAC because they work so much, and especially in the evenings. We had to do crazy times to get people in because they work from like 10 to 10. So it's a little tricky. I'd love to get them on the committee. I'd love to get some of those former members from Economic Advisory Committee back as well for the historical end of it, but I'd like to leave it some flexibility.
And I'd like members at large, regular
Correct, yeah.
resident. They don't have to have a.
I think if the group is advertised out for us to get in the applications, quote unquote, the letters, I think if we did get that in the Clipper with the ad, that we would love to have the participation of some of the business owners in the area as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get some of them as well to come
agree.
into it. It's their part of town, so.
It would be great if they were all, but.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
most of them are residents, too.
And like anything with these working groups, again, anybody can attend, people want to attend the meetings, et cetera, and there'll be outreach meetings for the public too, so.
Okay, good.
So what is the number of this
Yeah.
group?
7.
7?
Select
Seven.
Board, Planning Board, ZBA, and 4 at large.
Okay,
Okay.
for the Halls Corner Advisory, right?
Right.
And the same for the MBTA community, right?
I don't think we got there yet.
Oh, okay.
I would rather for the Hall's Corner that it have somebody from Highway Safety as well and DPW Director, even though that bumps us to 9. Because the Highway Safety piece of it with the traffic enforcement,
Yeah.
they've come before us about like the parking spot and things like that.
Is it possible on that, Mr. Chairman, that those personnel could be part of the group but wouldn't necessarily be voting part of the group?
That's
Correct?
a good point.
It'd be more consulting?
Let me ask our town manager. Can we ask Sheila to be a part of this? Is that?
You can, but I think for flexibility for her sake, you might want to just invite her in and out when you need her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather
Okay.
than have her have
Yeah.
a seat.
Every meeting, yeah.
So maybe just Highway Safety.
I would do the same for Highway Safety too, because they may flex and decide they want a different member. Like one week it might be this guy, and next week it could be this person.
Yeah, if they could be part of the group, it doesn't have to be part of the voting members, that way they're.
Okay.
That way you can kind of have them pinch hit when they need to be there.
Okay.
So that's 7.
How do you folks feel about that?
Good, I
That
like
works.
the list.
All
Mr.
right.
Clerk's doing a
3 and
great
3.
job.
3 and 3. We do have questions from the audience. Any other input from board members? All right, great.
I'm just curious if
Go.
Chris has anything to say about how we've jiggered around the.
Have we messed things up, Chris?
I think you'll be fine.
All right.
Okay,
All right,
great,
good.
thank you. Go ahead.
Siobhan Paranick, I live on Chestnut Street, very close to Hall's Corner, and I really think when you're working on this Hall's Corner working group that you do have to have residents.
Yeah.
Not just from Chestnut Street, there's Standish Street, there's Bay Road,
Yeah.
Washington Depot. Everything that goes on in that Hall's Corner affects us residents, and if you take us off the board as a voting member, like, it's a disgrace. And, now listening to the MBTA, I don't know how you can't have. And I'd also like to just say there are potentially some things coming up in Hall's Corner that are going to come to the planning, zoning, and selectmen. And I don't know how any of these boards can vote on this until these 2 working groups have kind of got a plan for this area without further complicating. You can't, there's one in particular, if you consider that before you've considered what's going on in the area, and we have a better plan for parking and traffic and what's going on, I don't think any like zoning changes or any changes should be done until the town has a better handle on what's going on in these areas. And I hope you will include the residents.
Yeah.
in this. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And so everybody knows with the Hall's Corner, it's not specifically just changing zoning and everything going on. It is the roadway, what we're going to do, how we fix the traffic in there and everything else. That's a big, that's the first big part of it, is how do we deal with all that piece of the puzzle.
Well, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the Select Board approve and establish the Halls Corner Working Group as presented / amended specifically to include 7 members, 4 at large, a member of the Select Board, a member of the Planning Board, and a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, MBTA?
Yes,
We didn't talk about the membership.
we did.
We did, yeah, I
Same
thought we
thing.
did.
One,
Same
two,
thing?
Same thing.
CBA, Planning Board, and
Members at large.
Select Board, yep.
All right.
And 4 members at large, same thing. Yep.
I move that the Select Board approve and establish the MBTA Communities Working Group as presented / amended to include 7 members, 4 at large, plus a member of the Select Board, a member of the Planning Board, and a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. You can keep your meeting open, because
Yeah, we need to keep it open.
we have a, we'll take a break for discussion and approval of ARPA funds for various projects with our Finance Director, Mary McKinnon. And Jeannie
Fantastic.
Horn.
I want to thank Chris Ryan. Thank you,
Oh,
Chris.
yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Good luck in your new,
Over and out.
take care. You can watch the video.
All right, we're going to shift gears.
It's the Bruins are on, that's why.
Good.
All right. We're going to shift gears, and I have put in your packets a memo regarding the use of additional ARPA funding. Tonight, we are here to ask for your support for 2 specific projects. One is a compensation and classification study. Our HR director is here with us this evening to answer any questions for you. That funding request is $40,000. The compensation and classification study, as you recall, was completed. The last one was completed several years ago. We are about to embark on contract negotiations for all of our collective bargaining agreements, and we have also created our Sustainable Budget Task Force, which is going to be kicking off tomorrow. Having an updated compensation and classification study is imperative for the work that those groups need to accomplish. The second project is a request for $250,000, and that is for generators at the Mayflower and the Tremont or Depot? Tremont. The generator at the Mayflower and the Tremont Street well sites. If you recall, we had come before this board probably, 6 to 8 weeks ago, talking about a $1 million water main replacement project over at the East Street Bridge location. Our DPW director has been working very closely with the state on that project, and we are pleased to report that the initial estimates of about $1 million to do the water main replacement have come in under budget, and we are anticipating that we will be saving or not spending approximately $250,000 on that project, and therefore we're asking to reprogram or repurpose the $250,000 originally allocated to a water project to this new water project to put generators at these 2 well sites. So we're asking for your support for those 2. In addition, I also included an updated chart that you've seen before that reflects these 2 projects in there and where we stand with our remaining ARPA funding.
I have, go ahead.
I don't know if our HR director would like to present something, or if you guys have specific questions.
Quick question for Mark, real quick. What backup power do we need at Depot Street? It's not up, correct?
Depot Street's offline, so
Right.
we just want to add generators, Tremont and Mayflower.
Okay.
We currently have 2 well sites that have generators. We'd like to double that and make it 4 well sites. They'll give us a lot more redundancy during a
Okay.
storm.
All right. Thank you. All right. Sorry, Jeannie. I had one quick question. That was it. Do any board members have any questions? And we can let Jeannie talk about the compensation piece.
I have questions about the compensation study, so we can let Jeannie
Okay.
talk.
Great.
Hello. Jeannie Horn, Human Resources Director, 7 Buckboard Road. Did you want to start with the question?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I conducted a request for quotes for the compensation study. We received, I requested 4 quotes. We received 2. And the request is very similar to the one that we conducted in 2020. So the project will update the contiguous and similar comparable communities. We will update the internal and external pay comparisons of 144 unique job titles. 108 are non-union and 36 are union positions. And we will examine the town of Duxbury's current compensation system. We have 14 different compensation systems within the town, so it's a complex task for internal and external equity using established and contiguous similar communities. We will be going through the job descriptions, the job analysis questionnaires. We'll be examining the classifications that we currently have, because now we've lived. The last study, as Mary had said, was completed in 2021, so now we've lived with that study for 3 years. And when it was completed, we entered a very different stage. So it was conducted during COVID. It was completed as COVID was ending, and then we started implementing it right after COVID. So the world is a different place now than it was when we conducted that study. There are skills gaps now that we didn't have then. There's been a lot of movement in the workplace in terms of boomers retiring, and then there are fewer people kind of coming up the ranks into these kinds of positions. So in order to be competitive, we want to make sure that we are dealing with the most up-to-date data. We're going to be auditing all jobs for conformance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Equal Pay Act, the Fair Labor Standards Act, and all other applicable federal and state laws. And as part of this request for quotes, we asked the respondents to recommend a 3-year projected pay plan to assist in our budget planning and to provide a universal, consolidated, comprehensive, clearly defined compensation structure and strategy that is cost-effective, incremental, competitive, consistent, easy to administer. And basically we had 2 respondents, and the successful respondent is GovHR, which we are familiar with, and we've worked with them in the past.
Amy, do you have some questions?
Yeah, so some comments and some questions, and just probably more comments than anything. But so back in 2020, when we did the first compensation study, you know, the town had not done this before, and you know, we were having trouble retaining a workforce. Felt that, you know, this was an important step, so we all supported it. Cost the town, I think you said, similar to what it's costing now, $40,000.
It's actually substantially less this time.
This time, okay, so as it should be, because this is going to be an update. So, you know, we spent the money. I personally have heard from town employees that they weren't thrilled with the results, and there was some problems, and you know, we have tried to work through that since. So I guess I just want to understand, you know, where are we going with this? Are we every 2 years we're going to spend $40,000 and do a new study? And And if that's the case, shouldn't it be less and less each year? If you're just updating information, it seems to me that it should be less of a burden. And, you know, at the end of the day, certainly we want our workforce to be happy. We want to retain the best and happy people. But if that isn't the result of these compensation studies, then it makes me pause.
So I appreciate your comments, and I think by and large, the study was a resounding success. So it depends on who you talk to. I mean, it is absolutely impossible to please everyone all of the time. Compensation is one of the most challenging things we do as an employer. It's also one of the most expensive things we do. So I'm responsible for compensation and benefits for the town. Those are the biggest spends we have. So the money that we have, we want to make sure that we're spending it as wisely as possible. So it's about attraction, retention, but it's also about value. So we have to understand the value of our positions. And I can tell you, you know, right now we did multiple memorandums of understanding with a particular labor group within the last year. That was unprecedented. We did it to make sure that we were delivering the most basic need to our citizens. It is probably the most important thing that we do for our town, this particular function. So we have to change with the market. We have to change with the skill set. We have to make sure that we're spending our money as wisely as possible. HR is a vast practice. So it's impossible to be an expert at all portions of human resources. So compensation is chief among the most complex tasks any HR professional can do. So you want to make sure that you're using all available resources in order to deliver that cost and that benefit to the best end. So it's increasingly important to be on top of that, and we learned a lot through the last session. So we've got great partners in our labor organizations, for example. Like with every single time we had a collective bargaining contract, we went through all of that data, and the unions became as good at it as I did with the education from GovHR. So it's almost half the cost of what it was the first time. So the first time we went out, it was $70,000. We were able to do that for less cost because we offered to partner with GovHR, and we ended up taking kind of a hybrid approach. And we benefited from that because we learned, you know, we got to kind of peek behind the curtain and understand how it's done. So this time, the cost is substantially lower than that. It's less than $40,000. So we're getting better at it. And to your point, there's a lot that we did the last time. We brought a whole collective bargaining unit into, we added like another 22 positions to the non-union group when we did that. So there was a lot of moving parts. So, you know, is everyone exactly where they should be in the compensation plan? No. Largely, yes. There are a few outliers that we're aware of. Planning director, for example. We need to re-examine that, but we need to re-examine it as a whole. We can't re-examine these positions individually because that's not how a compensation system works. It's like, you know, fixing one leak in a water system. You have to look at the whole thing, and you have to look at how it works. So it's important, and the Equal Pay Act requires that we update our classification and compensation study or work at least every 3 to 5 years. So I've been doing that internally on my own for 16 years. So this is the first time that the town has taken a comprehensive approach to include all 14 compensation systems. And it's very important to do that so that we make sure that we're addressing pay compression issues and we're staying competitive and that it works from a organizational perspective in the best possible way.
Amy, do you have any other questions? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
when I was on the finance committee, we supported this wholeheartedly. It's really important. And I've asked that we do it on a regular basis. It's really important that we keep up to date, we understand what our competitors are doing. that we offer fair compensation and we can demonstrate it to the employees that we're doing that. So I'm really glad that this opportunity to spend the 40,000 from ARPA money, even better, is before us. And I'm going to vote for and to recommend that we spend that money.
Brian.
Thank you. And Jeannie, thank you for taking the lead on this. It's incredibly important. I know it's one of these things that it doesn't necessarily show up in lights as being particularly sexy, but I think it's important for all the reasons you listed, and you raised the example that I was going to raise, which is planning director. As this board and the town generally has rightly, I think, expected more of that role. It's evolved, but in the comp classification, it's still where it was, whatever it is, 5 years ago. So no wonder we're having such difficulty finding somebody, because we're looking to hire for something that doesn't exist on the comp plan, because it hasn't been updated yet. So I join you, Fernando, in fully supporting this. I think it's important. We never like to spend money, but this is a necessary component, I think. I did have one question for Mark on the wells, and I just wanted to follow up on something Mike asked you. Are we looking for a generator on Depot?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, because I was confused.
That's why I asked Mark before I said something.
All right.
That was my
All right,
typo.
so we're not spending money on a well that's not working. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're fine. I had a question on timing for this $40,000. We have a tight window that we've asked for our town manager to provide this board more information for the next budget season. Is this compensation plan going to be done before the budget letters go out? And what is the plan for your reporting to the Sustainable Budget Committee and also to this board?
Sure. This might be a joint response.
Okay.
Mary and I discussed this today. So the project is projected to take about 16 weeks. We could start it as soon as 4 weeks from when we get the approval. Mm-hmm. So that would put us at about the end of September. So, but it's in the realm, mm-hmm. and I think it is a lot of work. There are I think it is important to take a look at the whole, mm-hmm. and we've done it. We did it very recently. We have the process down. We have very strong partners with our unions. Mm-hmm. So it is, that was actually part of the RFQ, is that we are assuring whoever was the successful person that they would have a strong partnership in the labor unions and with human resources in terms of collecting the data. Right. So we all know what we're good at, and we will all do that.
Yeah, and I guess ideal world, we have all the information before Labor Day, before the budget letters go out, but it's probably not going to happen.
It's highly unlikely that
Right.
that study will be completed in time for that budget message. However, once we meet tomorrow with the Sustainable Budget Task Force, we'll be talking about periodic updates to the Select Board for the work not only from that committee, but we can also provide updates on where we stand with the compensation study. But it is unlikely that all of that work will be completed prior to the budget message.
Right. Okay. All right. I am ready for a vote. Are you all ready?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Actually, yeah, just to be fair, is there any questions from the audience? Anybody in Zoom world? Okay, fine. A vote.
I move that the Select Board approve the use of ARPA funds on the listed projects as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now we have a discussion along with the planning board to interview and appoint candidates to fill a vacant seat on the planning board. If you're still here, you passed the first test. So.
All right, so as we know, we've done this process a couple times now over the years, and it looks like we had a good turnout for candidates who ran for the open spots that we had on the planning board, and now we do have an additional opening to complete a term currently, so as typical of our
The process. We did get a little bit of a note here about you were going to discuss that. Each candidate would get up and introduce themselves. The planning board will ask questions, select board asks questions, planning board votes, select board votes. And we have some questions that were approved by.
Yeah, and I can't recall, I don't recall if the candidate interview questions were given out to each of the candidates or not. I thought that they were. Okay, so, okay, perfect.
And they were.
Good. So what I was hoping was when they should be able to answer through those questions in their presentations on each of them. And then if we have additional questions at that point, then I think we'll go with that. So with that, we're in no particular order, so whoever cares to go first, just go for it.
Nope, stays there. Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Gant, 265 West Street, and I'm a candidate for the appointed position on the planning board. I have lived in Duxbury for 26 years. I have raised 5 children in the town of Duxbury. All have come through the Duxbury schools. My wife has lived in Duxbury since her high school years. We are well-established residents here. I have liked to joke, you've probably seen it. The last move that I'm going to make is from the house that I'm living in right now to a small plot of land between Mayflower and Termont Streets. So the question is, the first question is my professional background. For the last 6 years, I've worked at the Massachusetts Housing Partnership. I think this is important to mention. The Massachusetts Housing Partnership, MHP. It's a state instrumentality. It's a quasi-governmental organization. And that organization, in part, I don't work directly on this, but they provide a lot of technical assistance and advocacy with respect to MBTA communities and other state initiatives. I do not, as I say, I do not work directly in that particular role. I work in the lending group within MHP. We provide financing to developers in Massachusetts who are developing affordable housing. We also refinance existing debt for them. I've got experience working with a number of 40B developers to finance their projects all throughout the state. I've had experience working with providing funding reservation letters, letters of final approval with respect to 40B permits. I've also worked on regulatory agreements as they've involved those 40B permits. And I've got some experience also analyzing developments for compliance with zoning requirements, not just in Massachusetts, but throughout the rest of the nation. Prior to my time at MHP, I worked for what's referred to as an agency lender. It's gone by a number of different names. I won't bore you with them. These are organizations, it's an organization that provides financing to owners of multifamily housing, whereas right now I'm working on financing new developments. What I'd been working on before was essentially financing existing developments that may or may not have been affordable. So that's a bit of my background. Before I go any further, do we have a time limit or a preferred time limit that you'd like to hold to here?
Say 3 to 6.
Yeah, I think if you could keep it under 5 minutes, that would be great.
I'm well into that. Okay.
Maybe before it hits the 9. A couple more minutes.
Thank you. I don't think I can tick through all the questions. One of the most important ones, though, is talking about protecting the character of Duxbury. What does that mean? I think that's critically important, particularly as we're talking about MBTA communities. So I guess to answer that question, you have to do 2 things. You have to understand what it means what the character of Duxbury really means. And then you also have to understand what it means to protect that character. So, in my mind, what is the character of Duxbury? Well, we've got a lot of things in mind that we think that Duxbury represents. It's got it's a great place to raise a family. We've got, it's a community that supports its aging population. We pride ourselves in the education we give our children. We take pride in our civic resources, the town library, Walker Pool, government buildings. As a community, we prioritize residential uses, and we take great pride in our natural resources. So all these things are worth preserving and protecting, but what does it mean to protect them? Well, we talked earlier tonight about educating and reminding the town's residents that these features and resources are good to have, and that there's a cost if these were to be diminished or to be lost through neglect or indifference. This also means getting and respecting input from the stakeholders when important decisions have to be made. And it also means having the courage to say no or to say yes, but to requests or proposals that threaten the attributes that I was just talking about. So to me, that's what protecting the character of Duxbury means. I guess I'll probably just wrap up here. To me, the most important issue is one that we've talked about at length already this evening, and that is the MBTA Communities Law. There's a tremendous amount at stake. No one needs to be told that. We need to get this right, and we need people who are going to be on the working group, on the planning board, who are going to be focused on this. This has the potential to shape the character of Duxbury for many years in the future. We've got to get it right. If I would be privileged to be selected to represent the board, to represent the town in this particular role, I would be giving this everything that I have to make sure that whatever the town of Duxbury presents to the voters to vote on is something that the town can work with, that the town can live with, and that's going to preserve the character of Duxbury that we've come to know and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, questions? I'm sorry.
Planning board first. Yeah, there is a mic here. I don't know. It's kind of awkward, but it's easier to use than popping up and next to him.
Turn it on. That'd be good.
Nope.
It's the eject button.
All right, hi, I'm
We're not holding it very long.
hi, I'm Kristen Rapp from the Planning Board. Steve, thank you so much for throwing your hat in the ring again. One of the questions we have is about time commitment, because we're on the Planning Board, we all meet every 2 weeks on Monday night, and then we are also asked to be part of a committee. Do you have the capacity to be able to commit to that kind of a timeline?
I do have the time to be able to do that. In years past, I served as the Cub Master for one of the local scout packs, as you know, and I was a lot busier then. I had young children. Right now, I just have one child at home, full-time, so my schedule, my free time has opened up a bit. That's why my hat is in the ring. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have the time to commit to this, particularly special projects that we need to get really going on here. Sure, thank you.
Any other members on the planning board? Okay. You know what? Go left to right.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
There we
Chairman.
go.
Not a question, just an observation. Steve, you were one of the folks who threw their hat into the ring when we asked for volunteers before we had 6 candidates at the election. So I want to commend you for that. And I just pulled the election results to remind myself how folks did, and I think you were the first runner-up in the
Bronze
election,
medal,
right?
yep.
Bronze medal. All right. So there were 2 folks elected. You would have been next if we had 3 seats. And I just want to thank you for not only running the first time, but coming back to try again. I think it shows commitment, but I especially just want to acknowledge the fact that I know Matt as well also ran. So I want to thank you both for persevering and coming back. But I just wanted to get that right. I thought you were third. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Amy?
I actually did the candidate interviews, so I'm familiar, and for time purposes, I will defer.
Same again. Let's. I've got no questions.
Great, thanks, Vincent. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Thank
Yeah. Next.
Good evening, board. My name's Tom Dacey. I actually came in front of you guys last year for the special runoff. I'm fortunate to be able to come speak tonight, so thank you for having me. I live off of Surplus Street with my wife, Sarah. I've lived in town for 27 years, 6 of those years being my adult life. Currently, I'm the vice president of Champion Builders. We're a local real estate developer, home builder here on the South Shore. We recently just completed Checkerberry Hill, which is the most recent 40B development in town. We had the pleasure of working closely with a few of the town boards, including the Affordable Housing Trust, to make that community come to light. Very grateful for that. It came out really nice, from my own biased opinion. A little bit about myself. I grew up in town. I graduated Duxbury High School. I attended Phillips Academy at Andover for a postgraduate year. I went to underground at Denison University, where I double majored in economics and environmental studies. After undergrad, I went down to Tulane University and I got a master's in sustainable real estate development through their architecture program. It's kind of a quick background on my education. A couple certifications. I'm a Mass real estate salesperson, as well as a Massachusetts construction supervisor's license. I have my LEED green certificate as well. So I guess, what are the two things that I think the board would want to hear from me in this position? I think the first one being, what can I bring to the board as a volunteer member? I think I have the unique perspective of being a developer, having gone in front of not only the Duxbury Planning Board, but also having gone and spoke in front of many towns in southeastern Massachusetts, Cape Cod, Nantucket, and Rhode Island. So I've been on the other side of the people that come before the town, and I can really speak towards that process. Just from what we do, from design, conception, through construction, to deeding out the home to the individual buyer. I've walked that entire line, and I know that process like in and out. The second, I think, important thing is, why do I want to volunteer for the board? Having grown up in town, super fortunate to be from here. I love Duxbury. The coastal community is something special. The people that live in town, very special. And for me, I think just the future planning is so critical, whether it's we're talking about the MBTA housing, which is going to bring a lot more density to the town, which can really impact the total makeup of our town. Is a very critical item that needs to be handled correctly with the right steps. Having built affordable homes, I know what that looks like, and how when it comes out well, and when it also does not come out well, and that starts with the planning process. So that I think I can lend a very hands-on approach to that. And then, I grew up here. I moved back here. I put my roots down here. I'm going to live here till the day I die. I develop in town. I know what it means to do it. I know what that actually looks like in reality. And for me, I really care about how Duxbury's future is going to be, not just for myself and my family, but for future generations of everybody else's families in town. I think that's critical for smart development while protecting our natural resources and the overall beauty of the town. So if the board has any questions, I'll gladly answer them.
Planning board first.
You're so good at this, Kristen.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Kristen Rapp again. I'm going to have the question for everybody. Just wanted to ask you about your time commitments. We meet on Mondays every 2 weeks, and then we ask everybody to be on another committee. What's your time capacity to be able to make that type of commitments?
I can make it work. I have a pretty flexible work schedule, so if I commit to something, I will attend every meeting. I'm also on the sidewalk and bike path committee. I forgot to admit that, so I'm already partaking in town as well. So that won't be a problem.
All right. Any other planning board members?
Yeah.
Mr. Carpenter.
Ted Carpenter on the planning board. Okay. So I noted that you had pursued graduate work in sustainable construction. So I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you've had a chance to think about it, you're obviously familiar with zoning bylaws. Do you have any concrete or specific ideas about Duxbury's zoning bylaws in terms of improving the sustainability of construction in Duxbury?
So zoning bylaws and how they... So, interesting question. So currently, the Mass Department of Energy is in July 2024, the Mass Energy Code is updating to its final version of the stretch code. So Duxbury is a stretch code town. So a lot of actual green building and more energy efficient practices are already coming into place by virtue of a state law. I'm currently, for my work, I'm going through what those steps look like for an all electric house, better glazing windows, air barriers, insulation. To try to put that package together to actually build a energy efficient home that meets the state code, but also provides a healthy and comfortable home for clients that also fits in their budget too, which is the key item there. So, so state-wise, that's already going on, and I'm living that day to day. Locally, for sustainability, I think a lot of like infrastructure improvements in town. I know, being part of the sidewalk committee, we fill out a grant for complete streets for the walkway to Washington Street to the school corridor. It wasn't funded this year. Hopefully this next year we'll be able to get it. But I think even having like safe walkways for children to be able to, if families to be able to walk around the community to get to school is a great example of not only green infrastructure but also a healthy lifestyle for the community. Hopefully that answers the question.
Any other planning members? Okay. Keep with the left to right.
No, thank you.
I have a question, but I'm going to defer to my members first.
No, I have no questions.
A quick question, Mr. Dacey. I just wanted to clarify, because I did do that candidate form for the other members, and were you on the ballot did you run?
No, I did not
You
run
didn't?
this
Okay,
year.
I just wanted to clarify
I inquired about it, but
board
at the
member.
time just chose not to run.
Okay, thank you.
I think it was just Steve and Matt.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I thought you had mentioned that he did run, and I just wanted clarification.
No, so Tom had come before us last time when
Right,
we
right, right.
appointed
Yep,
Allison.
thank you. Yep, for the appointment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for
you.
coming back.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, Tom. I just wanted to explore an issue because I think this board, just as a voter or a resident, would benefit from having someone that does know the business and develops here in town. My only concern is the conflicts of interest law. You develop here in town. You develop excellent communities such as Checkaberry, and this MBTA Communities Act is coming up. Have you thought about conflicts of interest law and how you would deal with voting on particular items that might benefit your company?
Yes, of course. I mean, that's obviously a huge concern of mine, being in the business. Like, the last thing that we want is have anything like that happen. I have taken the state's ethics course through the sidewalk committee, so I'm familiar with at least the layout of that. Let's say I was fortunate enough to be on the board and something most likely will come up just by the nature of my business.
Right.
Obviously getting ahead of that early, taking advisement from the group under consideration, as well as my own personal advisement. Obviously, that's the first and foremost in my mind, is to do the right by the community and to make sure that does not happen. So, whatever those steps are that need to happen to avoid that situation is first and foremost.
And so you've thought about that from a personal and financial stake too, that you can't. There's issues on both sides of the. Do you own part of that company? You're a vice president. Are you an owner as well?
I am a vice president title.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I did have this. I actually interviewed for the Affordable Housing Trust.
Yeah.
I had the same question come up, and I actually decided not to pursue that appointment for that reason, because at the time we were currently building affordable homes in town.
Right.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Really grateful, and thank you again for having me.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Gregory White. For the position on the planning board, I'm an attorney actually in Weymouth. I live diagonally across from the fire station, right on Tremont. We've been there for 7 years. The previous people that spoke, and I'm sure the others, I don't think I'm any better. Why am I the right person for the job? I think that those are extraordinary candidates. I've got 7 years, but actually I have a little bit more than that. My father-in-law lived just south of the Standish Monument, so this was our trip to Cape Cod. I'm a father of 4. It was a heck of a lot easier to come to Duxbury than it was to go across the bridge. Bottom line, and then they got 4 or 5 beaches to choose from. But I've got 33 years as a practicing attorney. Real estate is what I do. And it started as titles, doing my own grunt work titles. I read plans. In addition to that, when I was in the town of Walpole, I was on the zoning board. I was an RTM member and ended up being the zoning board chairman. And having comparing and contrasting where Duxbury is now and where Walpole was then, and I emphasize then because you have to go to Walpole now, and I think the issues that I heard earlier tonight are the issues that are right up front for the town of Duxbury. I moved out of Walpole. I was born and bred there, raised my family there, but going back now is a true parking nightmare. What they've done, what you've got at Hall's Corner, I will say it to the point of where it is now, it's very tasteful. And the way that it's being handled, at least till now, is tasteful. I'm not quite walking distance anymore from there, but I still am close to it, and I do visit it often. And the growth is still going to come. And so what do I think is the priority for the planning board in the town? While conservation and protection on the left hand is very important, you've got to balance that with, there's got to be some growth. You can't chase away business. Business is what pays the bills. Business is what pays my bills as an attorney and the practice that I have. And that's what I think the planning board, it has to be able to dovetail and balance those areas that really contrast with each other. But to date, when we came to Duxbury, and it was the millennium and probably 10 years before and not quite 10 years after, and we came 7 years ago, and that was, we chose Duxbury because we went from the 12-room, 4 kids, all moved out. We didn't need the Cape anymore, and I didn't need the big yard. And we came to Duxbury where I have the small Cape, a decent-sized yard, and but we're on 3A. And traffic, we see it every day. But it doesn't, we're on the last exit. I try to explain to people, if people are coming down as far as we are, they pretty much know where they are. We don't have major traffic issues. But that is ahead for Duxbury, at least to be able to balance. And I think the balancing of what, particularly the planning board and the zoning board, and working with the town's envision going forward, it's a beautiful town. But there are issues coming forward, and I think that, and frankly, I saw the advertisement in the Duxbury Clipper. Having been in this arena in Walpole, I just saw, well, if there was going to be an open seat and it was going to be left open, that's just not good. So that's why I put my name in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stepping up.
Thank you. Planning board members.
You got the short straw, huh?
All right, same question for you. We have our meetings every 2 weeks on Monday nights, and we also ask everybody to be on another committee, to be a liaison to another committee. I wanted to check in with you and ask you what your time.
I don't have a problem with that. There's far less than when we had these, when the gatehouse came to Walpole, I was on the zoning board, and so that was weekly meetings for close to 8 months.
Okay.
You know, and I ended up, we had a quorum. Not only that, I did vote right to the end. That's what they call for. That's what you do.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other members? Okay.
Actually, one that I forgot to ask everybody, that we asked, I think, last couple of times. So this is an appointment, but only until the next election.
This is true.
So this goes for you and actually for everybody. If we appoint you, will you run for election at the next town election?
Oh, yes, I would.
All right, thank you.
Certainly the
And
difference
that
between...
goes for Steve and Tom?
say yes as well.
Yeah, okay,
All right.
okay.
For the sake of the
Thank you.
TV audience, there was yeses from the other
Yeah.
candidates. Do you want to ask any other questions?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
All right. Amy?
I'm all set, thank you.
Well said, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just have, we did, the planning board has had 4 attorneys step off.
Step off?
Well, not, well, yeah, we gained 2.
That's right, yeah.
So, what kind of part of your practice is relevant to the planning board?
Oh, sure. I represented developers, but particularly developer in Somerville. He started in Walpole residential. Then he expanded to Newton and Needham. That was still residential, but it was residential subdivisions. And now in Somerville, it's predominantly mixed use. And that's so what would be beneficial, I think, to my position on the planning board is the understanding of the particular areas of developing as well as the business development, and that mixed use is just something that has to be considered in the development. I don't know in Duxbury, I mean, at this point, but I'm seeing it, I can only say I'm seeing it in Walpole, and I never thought I would have.
Okay.
So,
thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
Great.
All right. Next.
Carl or Matt are going to have to fight for it.
Good evening. My name is Carl Coons. I live at 154 Marshall Street. We've been there for 12 years after living for 50 years in New York City. Our life here in Duxbury has been completely different, as you can imagine, and we love it. We've become very active in various organizations and met a lot of wonderful people. I'm a member and have leadership positions in Duxbury Rotary, Duxbury for All, and DARI. That's the group that brought in an Afghan family almost 3 years ago, and we're still supporting them. I'm retired, so you don't have to ask a question, and I have lots of time to devote to all the responsibilities of this position. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon with a BS Electrical Engineering and Columbia University with MBA in Finance. Most of my career has been in, well, the start of my career was in manufacturing planning, and then most of my career was in financial management. But for most of that, it's entailed considerable involvement in leading financial and strategic planning. My engineering background has served me well as a problem solver. My strategic planning experience means that I can keep the big picture in mind while digging into the details. I've successfully managed quite a few large, complex projects. I've been involved in planning just about all my life, in for-profit, non-for-profit, and in volunteer organizations. The latter has probably been the most challenging, as you can imagine. You have to be extra flexible and account for a lot more variables and unknowns. But I think helping to lead those organizations, the 3 I mentioned earlier, to success in achieving goals and making progress has prepared me for the challenges that face the planning board as well as the select board in trying to plan, govern, coordinate, and implement with 50 volunteer boards and committees. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I want to address the question about the character of Duxbury. I personally like the historical aspects of living in Duxbury, and I think it's very important to preserve them, particularly the heritage housing stock. But in terms of protecting its character, I also look to protect the things that are most important to the residents, as expressed in the survey in the comprehensive plan. I thought that survey was great. You got a lot of response for it and a lot of good information there. So, for example, the people who are here for the schools, the beach, the open spaces, the village nature of Duxbury, and its beauty. But to protect those things, you need to solve some of the larger issues, like rising sea levels, water quality, affordable housing, changing our zoning and other related regulations. One other question I wanted to address. What are my biggest planning concerns at this time? 2 things come to mind. First, the implementation of the comprehensive plan or the Envision plan is incredibly large and complex and hindered by the turnover of town planners. I would like to understand its current status. I haven't seen that in public, and see for myself whether we have the right priorities. I did read that we were trying to have an owner for each action item, which I think is an excellent step to make some progress. And second, my experience with planning is that they are out of date as soon as they are finished and published. And good planners and the executives they serve understand this and find ways to build in the flexibility to adjust plans to changing conditions. Current examples would be the pandemic and then the state mandate. It's just come down. Well, it's been about 3 years, I guess. I would also like to see another survey. It's been 5 years to get a sense of whether the residents' view of what is important has changed. Finally, why should I be selected? In addition to my professional background and experience in planning in various types of organizations, I've become very involved in the Duxbury community. I'm passionate about preserving the characteristics that are the essence of why we all love Duxbury, and very interested in being involved in solving the issues facing us, as well as making improvements that satisfy all our, or most of our constituents. Being relatively new to Duxbury and having lived in a variety of locations here and abroad, I think I bring a different perspective and the ability to find creative solutions and improvements. Thank you. Questions?
Planning Board. All right.
And he answered mine.
Yeah. I have to say very comprehensively answered the questions.
Great. Any other? Okay. Select Board members.
Answered mine already.
I'm good. Carl has been around doing good stuff, so
Yes.
thank you.
Exactly.
I have a something similar to another prior candidate, and I don't want to get into this too much, but obviously your address, you've had an issue with a neighbor with the short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
It's been discussed about potentially exploring our short-term rental bylaw. I know one of the planning board members has discussed that. Have you thought about how you would handle that as a planning board member, whether it be recusal altogether, or how you would handle that?
I would definitely recuse myself.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been going on for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
It's one of the ways that I've gotten more familiar with how the town works.
Yeah.
And how difficult it is to enforce regulations and to, to solve a complex issue like that, particularly with folks that are pretty stubborn.
Yeah.
To say
Thank
the
you
least.
for your candor. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next.
Good evening, all. I'll keep this quick and succinct. I know we're all wondering what the Bruins are doing. So I'm Matt Ray. I live on Laurel Street. I was along with Stephen, one of the other candidates on the ballot this past spring. We moved to Duxbury in 2010, so we've been here for 14 years already. And I have a freshman in the high school and a fifth grader. And professionally wise, I'm an attorney. I'm partnered with the law firm of Bowditch and Dewey in our Boston office. A large portion of my practice is in the representation of developers in the commercial real estate space. The remaining part is general corporate law and then corporate finance. No, in terms of, to preempt any questions, no in terms of conflict of interest. None of my developer clients are in the Duxbury South Shore area, more Boston and surrounding areas. In terms of some of the character, or I guess I'll get straight to the point. If you read that Envision Duxbury plan, there's certain things that the town, the boards and the residents have raised. How do we continue to develop the community while retaining the traits that we've all come to know? What do we do with our open space? How do we improve it? How do we possibly increase it? Coastal resiliency, climate change. It's something that hasn't come up tonight, but it's going to face all the boards in town over the next few years. And then there's some of the issues are particular to Duxbury, some of them are not. One of them being the whole demographics are changing. There's an aging population, yet in order to continue to grow the town, you need the younger folks to come in. It's clearly expensive. All of us can look around the town and see it's expensive. How do we transition and continue to grow the town while recognizing that the demographics are changing? Is that accessory dwelling units? Maybe. How do we get more multifamily? How do we get more affordable units in? How do we make it open for younger families to come in? It's a heck of a lot different when I moved in 14 years ago to how it is now. And those are issues that are going to be facing the planning board, zoning board, and the select board. In terms of trait and character, what I've noticed, I grew up in a town called Reading, north of the town. It's a lovely town, but moving down here, the 1 acreage per residential, it has that different feel. It's not as crowded. I think all of us have all enjoyed the conservation land, the beach. How do we preserve that, as it was clearly dictated in the Envision campaign? How do we preserve that while also developing? The MBTA Communities Act is coming down the pike. Now that's more of a silver bullet coming down as a one-time, challenge that we're all going to have to deal with and the possible ramifications. But the continued growth of the town and the continued development of Hall's Corner, Millbrook, multifamily, those are all going to be issues that are going to be, each board's going to have to deal with in the next 3, 5, 10 years. There's no escaping it. And for my benefit, I bring a combination of real estate, representing developers, being in front of planning boards, A&R subdivision plans, site plan reviews, along with, I have an MBA degree and a JD degree from Suffolk, and my undergrad's from Assumption College in Worcester. So I bring the combination of a real estate background combined with the legal analysis. And anyway, you face it, issues facing the planning board and other boards of town, they have the development, the real estate side, but they also have the legal ramifications. We heard that earlier tonight with the MBTA zoning. We're going to hear that in multifamily. We're going to hear that in 40B projects that the town remains open to until we hit that 10% threshold. So in terms of those are my qualities, like I said, I have 2 young kids. My wife and I, neither of us grew up here, but we love the town since we moved down. We have no intentions of leaving, so we're vested in the future development of the town. And I figured I've been looking for a way to give back to the town. And when I saw the planning board had openings for the election, I put my hat in. I wanted to be judicious in my time. So I thought the planning board is a way for me to give back to the town, use my legal skills, use my experience, and has a vested interest in the future growth and development of the town. I'm going to save you a trip to the table. I can, yes, my schedule is very flexible. I make my own schedule. I work from my offices in Boston, but I work from home 3 to 4 days a week. And I've coached young youth sports many times, so I'm used to the night commitment, so Mondays are not a problem with me. And that's it. Any questions?
Planning board.
Just a comment. I was looking at the election results, and you were number 4. About 80 votes behind Steve, I think.
That's right.
So thank you for continuing to put yourself out there. And I think we have a tough decision tonight. We have 5 very qualified folks. This is a good problem. Some towns have problems, but then there are also good problems to have too many qualified people for one seat, and I think we have one of those tonight.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the election, I see Lauren was up here and Stephen and Tag. I mean, the town's very fortunate. There were highly qualified candidates. There's highly qualified candidates here tonight. So, yeah, it was certainly the town's fortunate in people to have residents that are vested in the future of the town.
Similar question about ethics. It can be sticky, and obviously the MBTA communities is going to create opportunities for developers. Do you foresee having any of your clients pursuing opportunities here in Duxbury?
Majority of my practice is not in the residential space. It's more on the commercial side. Okay. So I don't really envision any conflict of interest in my practice vis-a-vis what's going to be in front of the Duxbury Planning Board.
Thank you.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Good,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other candidates? All right. I believe the planning board has to take a vote. Well, I don't. I don't make the rules. I just follow. I just read the script.
Yeah.
I'm like anchorman.
I think we
So-
deliberate first, right?
Here, I just remind everybody it has to be roll call votes.
There'd be a roll call vote, yes. So I have to say, we obviously all just met here tonight with everyone. There haven't been any other discussions on this, so this all has to be individually, what we think or where we're leaning. And being the chairman of the planning board, I guess, I have to lead off that discussion then, which is
As
which is
awkward
fine.
as it
As
is.
awkward as it is, exactly. We have great candidates. I'm glad so many people ran this time around. Often when we have the elected positions, they go unopposed. And we had, I think were there 7? Six that ran originally, and that's great. And we have additional people now coming forward again this evening besides those few that ran. Everyone here, I would say, in one way or another, would be great additions to the planning board. If we only had more openings.
Right.
Well, maybe there'd be one more. But, that said, I say for myself, Stephen has attended a number of our planning board meetings leading up to the running and election. Has expressed a great deal of interest and background in the MBTA communities things, which is going to be a heavy lift for us, especially from a planning standpoint on that piece of the puzzle. Again, I wish we could just have more members or have an alternate. I know we're an elected board, so having an alternate's not really one of our options. I would also encourage everybody who's interested in these positions. The Zoning Board of Appeals is always looking for additional people to be there, and I think they might even have some openings. And they can have alternates, which is great. It would be great if we had more people there. I know they struggle sometimes to get a quorum because of conflicts of interest and everything else. As well as we were putting together today, the working groups. We have a couple more working groups that the planning board itself is putting together, and we need people who want to be involved from that standpoint as well. So even though it might not be something directly onto the board at this time, we have a lot of things we could use your assistance with, absolutely, here in the town. And I would hope everybody would throw their hat into that ring as well. For me personally, that's where I think I was leaning right now. So I'm open to all discussion with everybody else. This is not a me decision. This is a we decision. So that's just where I am.
We'll go in order.
This
How
is,
was Steve?
Serial discussion. Yeah, so tremendous candidates. I think when I think about what does the planning board need, I think that because of the legal implications of planning board decisions, I think legal expertise is extremely valuable for the planning board, and everybody has that to one degree or another. But I think, it's kind of, I speaking candidly, since we had an election and we had, people who put in the effort to run and gained votes, that certainly weighs on my thinking on this. And Matt and Steve were kind of in a dead heat in that respect. So I kind of think of them as the two front runners in this case. So it kind of comes down to that question of legal contribution, which would push it more in Matt's direction, in my opinion. So that's my contribution.
You're not going in order. We're going to have one of us for each candidate.
Where's
Lawrence
Wayne?
Roy I'm on the planning board. For those of you that don't know me too much, I have a design background that I have stood up in front of many planning boards, many zoning boards over the course of my career. Because of that, I think I bring a really different outlook. I understand how towns work across the board, many different types of towns. So because of that, I am really leaning towards Tom. I think he'd bring a good, just a different view. Having so much development coming into town, I think that he would just really help out.
Making it easy.
So there's two for Steve, right? One for Tom, is that right?
So far.
Hi, I'm Kristen Rapp. I have to say, this is a super tough decision. I wish I could take all 5 of you and put you into one member. We've got a builder, multifamily lender, 2 real estate attorneys, and an administrator with change management experience. And with all the projects that are on our horizon, we need every single one of those skill sets.
That's correct.
So I don't find this easy at all, and I want to thank you all for raising your hand, throwing your hat in the ring, as I said before. There are a couple things that I'm trying to figure out, like which way to break the tie, if you will. And one is, we had Tom who raised his hand before, and we had 2 people who were elected, and so we've kind of got that to go. We've got 3 people who've raised their hands twice, basically. So regardless of what happens, though, I would like to, before I say anything, but regardless of what happens, I would like to make some suggestions for the 4 of you who aren't appointed tonight. I would strongly encourage you to please join one of these other committees. Like Matt, you'd be great on the Economic Advisory Committee. Matt, you and Steve would be great on the MBTA Community Advisory Committee. Carl, you'd be awesome, I think, on the Inclusionary Zoning Advisory Committee or on the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as Matt or Greg. So there are lots of opportunities no matter what happens. And please know, nobody's a loser tonight. We're a winner, but we're all winners because everybody raised their hand. So I think I'm leaning toward probably a real estate attorney, which we don't currently have on the board right now. And so that would be
Matt.
Matt, right, Matt.
Well, there's 2.
There's 2.
There's 2 real estate attorneys in here.
Matt, with a commercial real estate attorney. Jay. Matt, yeah, right, okay. So that would be my leaning. So we have some more discussion to go, I think, from here.
All right.
So can I just understand what the current status amongst the planning board is, please, in terms of support?
Yeah, would you like to take a roll call vote on, or do you want to discuss further? How do you want to? It's your board.
I believe my understanding, can I just read out what I think I heard? So basically, there's 2 votes for Steve Gant. Did I hear that correct? 2 for Steve Gant?
I think tag was Matt.
No.
No?
Tag was.
I'm getting really good. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, I was leaning towards Matt.
Okay, so we got two for Matt. We've got 1 for Steve, and we got 1 for Tom. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
For Nancy's purposes, do they need to take a vote before we take a vote?
No, we all talk about it and then we all vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, planning board goes first, and then the select board votes.
Okay.
I'm happy to go.
Somebody's got to make a motion down there.
Last time they went through the discussion.
Okay, we'll go through our, we'll all discuss, that's fine. All right, I'll go left to right again.
Yeah, happy to. And again, we're going to beat this to death, but love to have all 5 of you. And I think Kristen made a great point about please volunteer for another committee. What I'm looking for, which is always true when we make these appointments, is somebody who can hit the ground running. So somebody who's got experience in planning, zoning, developing, which many of you do. So that doesn't really shrink the pie too much. But also to Kristen's point, I think it's great that we have 3 folks who have already put up their hand at least once before. So Matt was with us, I think, one year ago. And then Steve and, Tom, yeah.
Tom.
And then Matt and Steve, the most recent election. So I think if I had to boil it down, I think I'd first go with the folks who have already volunteered, since they're coming up again. And in a way, the voters have kind of made it easy for me, because they've already said, of the folks who ran, who they prefer in terms of order. And that's why I brought the election results with me. Not to make light of it, but I think if all other things are equal, and they are in a certain way, you all come very very talented, with lots of talent to the board. you've put yourselves out there, the voters have spoken. I would think, and this is one thing that occurred to me when we first were thinking about how we're going to do this, that whoever was next on the ballot in terms of votes would first be my person, the person I would go to as long as they were qualified. And I think we have that in spades with Steve, and I would be inclined to appoint Steve, with all due respect to everybody, of course.
Okay, thank you. Similar to the planning board, I kind of narrowed my three down to Tom, Matt, and Steve. Steve, in particular, I recognize your impassioned statement about getting the MBTA right, because we do, and it's going to be the biggest hot button issue coming forward. With Tom, I said it before, I think it would be really great to have somebody on there that has that developer experience. And similarly, we've lost lawyers on the planning board, and to have somebody that represents developers on the planning board and has that legal background would be a huge asset for this community. With that being said, I'm leaning towards Matt as well, because I think there is that hole on, no offense to anybody on the planning board, you're wonderful, but to not, who? Oh, we still, Wayne, he's not here. Yes. Celebrity. Wayne's a wonderful attorney, but I think having that turnover, losing Brian, Cindy, David, and Kevin, David. It is 9:30. I would lean towards Matt.
I might be the person in here who has had to run for election more than anyone else in this room at this particular time. And running for a position in town is a humbling experience. And I actually think it's something that everybody should do once in their life. So I commend the people who actually run. I don't think it's the same thing. My first time was an appointment to the planning board, then I ran for the seat. But and as I think awkward as this appointment process is, again, it's not running. When you run, you put yourself out there before the town. It is incredibly humbling, and at the same time, it's incredibly validating. When you get elected, you feel like the residents are behind you. They want you to succeed. They've voted for you. You feel empowered. Having said that, I also think that it's important right now that we have somebody who is knowledgeable about this MBTA. Certainly, I have not been a proponent of 40B development ever. I am a tree hugger. Development and growth is tough, and this town tends to resist a lot of growth and development, and that's okay. They get, at the end of the day, the town has the say. But right now, we're faced with this MBTA challenge. We need to educate the residents as to all of the aspects of it, the ins, the outs, the ramifications, whether you're for it or against it, what does that mean, however you decide to vote. And I think right now, at this point in time, Steve is the most knowledgeable, and I think we'll be able to help the town guide in that direction. So that would be my choice.
Yeah, Amy's right. Running election is very humbling, as she beat me the first time around. So.
And me.
But I came back, and here I am. Actually, I'm going to cut it short. I mean, ditto to what everybody has said. It's absolutely fantastic, and thank you all very much for those of you who stood up and come forward. It's greatly appreciated. I was initially going and supporting Steve for the very reasons that he brought up with regards to MBTA communities and his passion about protecting the character of Duxbury. How do you work those two sides? But I also listened to what the planning board say that they need. And at the end of the day, I listened to the planning board, and they both. I heard 2 votes for Matt, so I will go ahead and support the planning board in their need to have another lawyer and a developer to add to the base, so to speak. So my vote goes to Matt.
What is it, a tie?
No,
It's a tie.
I can give you guys in folks, I should say, a tally. There was 3 that were leaning towards Steve, Chair Casagrande, Brian, and Amy. And there were 4 that were leaning towards Matt, Tag, myself, Kristen, and Fernando. And I think that's it.
And
And
one-
for Tom
one for
Dacey,
Tom
it was,
Dacey.
yes, Lauren, yep. So I will entertain motions, or unless there's any further discussion.
Nope. 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 Nope.
General
bylaws
don't allow.
This is such great talent.
Yeah, and again, all we can do is encourage everybody to get involved with the other pieces of the puzzle out there that we have and need help, so.
I mean,
Look, I'm inclined to, as a group, we, as chair of the planning board, I gotta go up here.
Yeah,
because
afraid to.
I'm speaking and I'm not yet.
Yeah. It's to the world outside.
Yes, exactly, if anyone's listening. But anyway, I would be inclined to, since now we've gone through, all of us here with the discussion with the select board, the majority number here is leaning to Matt, and I would entertain a motion from the planning board that we accept the applicant, Matthew Ray, to the open position on the planning board.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, there we go. It's always hard. It's always
Are you
hard. I call
hesitating?
for-
Is there something going on? I'm not,
We don't have to pick. Sorry, that's all.
You don't. But, yeah, I mean, we do have to, I mean.
We do have to.
We have to pick, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you have to vote.
You don't want to,
oh,
but we're
okay.
going to.
I didn't know if there was some minds wanting to change, or whether you were comfortable with where this is at.
I mean, my requesting that is based on the majority of our combined group, what we came up with there. I don't think we, everybody's got plenty of talent to be on the
Yes,
planning board, that's
correct.
for sure. So, that was where we kind of landed. So we have a motion, a second. I will call for a roll call vote, please. You can just go in order down the chairs. Name and yay or nay. Okay, you want to have discussion?
No, I just
Okay.
would like a break.
The discussion has to happen in the open.
Has to happen in the open.
You want to recess?
Yeah.
You may have a recess.
Yeah, 5-minute
You may
recess,
use
yes.
the bathrooms and everything like that, but no discussions.
No discussions.
I'm going to go blow my nose.
Yeah, it's the county flag. Yeah, it was
I was
presented
saying it.
tonight by the treasurer and the chair of the Plymouth County Commission.
Ooh,
We're going to need another flagpole.
what, 1-0.
I was saying we could just, might end up on 900.
This is an unusual evening with 2 breaks. I can't say it.
All right. It is your meeting too, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. We can have further discussion, that's for sure. And as we all know, we don't all have to vote unanimously in favor of anything. If somebody feels strongly the other way, you should always vote your conscience. So that's, kind of where we are. So we currently had a motion and a second. And would we like to have some more discussion? Seeing none, it's just the 4 of us. So seeing none, I will call for a roll call vote. Please start on the end. We'll just work our way towards it's name and then how you vote. Yep.
Yep, your name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be yes, yay or nay.
So, yeah.
Yay. Yay. Yep. No problem. No problem. It's the first one. Don't worry about it.
What's that?
Okay. And Scott Casagrande, aye. So that's our vote.
Can you repeat those? I didn't hear a single one of them except for you.
Was the motion for Matt initially?
Yes.
The
Yes.
motion
Yes.
was for Matt. How did you guys vote, please?
All,
Yes.
all in favor.
You were all in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you. We couldn't hear you.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. With permission from my fellow board members, are you ready for a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I would entertain a motion for Matthew Ray. Mr. Clerk?
So moved.
All right.
I'll second it.
No, I'm going to
Oh,
be second.
All right, Fernando's seconding.
Second.
All right. And as with the planning board, if there's any other discussion here, please, you may have your piece.
I just want to point out that historically, we've voted unanimously on these things to support the incoming member, as tough as it is. So even if we've spoken about other candidates, or we've spoken in support of other candidates, typically, as we've done this a number of times, we vote for the candidate who's ultimately nominated unanimously. So if it sounds weird that we talked about other candidates and now we're voting in support of somebody that we weren't originally supporting, that's just been our tradition for the select board. I get that right?
Yep, you got it right. Thank you for that clarity. That's good.
But we just heard the chair of the planning board make an impassioned speech about voting your conscience, and I think I'm struggling with that a little bit because I really was, and I'm not sure that a dissenting vote would not be supportive of the new. I'm sorry, I'm conflicted and it's late, and so I struggle voting for someone just because the rest of the group did. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Sorry, I think Sean voted against me back in the day, so that's okay.
What's that?
I said I think Sean voted against me in the back in the day, so I love to tell the tale, so that's okay.
Well,
all
that
right.
was deep.
Somebody holds grudges.
No, it's I think it's just to point out that you can do it either way. You can do it either way.
All right. We have a second. All those in favor with a roll call vote, I will go left to right.
Brian, aye.
Amy, no.
Fernando, aye.
And Michael, aye.
With sincere thanks to all applicants.
And once again, thank you all for stepping up to the ring and giving it a shot. Much appreciated. And Carl, you need the planning board stuff, the strategic planning, all that kind of. You got to help out somehow. And Tom, keep on doing what you're doing. MBTA communities, we need you, Steve.
We are.
That's
And
true.
Greg.
We need some help.
Greg, zoning board of appeals. Greg, zoning board of appeals need alternate.
Oh, I did my zoning plan. Well, we did the gatehouse. We were the gate, the stadium. We were a single source.
Is that right?
So we had one source of water.
Oh, yeah.
The gatehouse. You go to the Patriots game, you'll see the gatehouse.
Yeah.
And that was a big. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Housing appeals come, they're gonna get it no matter what.
Hey, hang on.
Right.
Hang on a minute, please.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Wrap it up.
Thanks for your contribution. Would you like to close your meeting, Mr. Chair?
The planning board has a motion to adjourn. We have a second? Okay, all those in favor? We have to do a roll call vote on this because of our situation, or no?
No, I think you're fine.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
All right, thank you.
Aye, aye, all right. We're adjourned. Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you. Thanks, folks. If you could take your discussions in the hallway, we have a few more things on the agenda.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Those are always off.
Gents. Hey, guys.
You did fine.
Thank you. I know.
You did fine.
Hey, guys.
Guys,
We got a few more things.
we still got
Thank you.
45 minutes.
You want it that way? I'll make it that way.
Oh, God. Yes. I just wanted to say that on the agenda tonight was an update from the DEI committee and affirmation of the Select Board's Statement on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, adopted by the Duxbury Selectboard on March 29th, 2021. Due to the congestion tonight on the agenda, it will be continued to another date. With that, Town Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of updates for you. First, with regard to the DPW, we are working on a solution for the dirt.
Yay! Tell me it's gonna be.
In fact, we hope to keep it for our own use.
That's what that would be
Either
the
as
best.
beach nourishment material, some of it will go to the DPW for their use over the years. We're working on storage solutions for it and all that, so we are in the process of working through all that with details
That is
coming
very
down the
good
road.
news.
Yeah. It's about 30,000 cubic yards, so it's a good chunk of dirt. Road closures, I want to let you know, and this one may impact you. The DOT East Street Bridge project, which spans over Route 3, is beginning in the next week or two. They're going to be down to a single lane, but the DOT has also advised the DPW that the bridge itself will be closed to traffic beginning in early June and will remain closed for an extended period of time, plus or minus 1 year. The reason they're doing that is they want to close it down to get the job done and not have to do it over the course of 2 years. The transfer station at the Duxbury Mall. In recent weeks, some visitors to one of Duxbury's greatest treasures, the Duxbury Mall, may have noticed that the closing hour of the Duxbury Mall has been fluctuating, and some folks have been wondering why. Presently, we are down a staff member at the transfer station, and after conferring with the DPW director and the staff at the transfer station, the Duxbury Mall will be closing, that is, not accepting drop-off items after 3:30 p.m. This will allow the staff adequate time to clean up the area before reopening the next day. Once the staff is back up to the full complement, we expect to be able to resume previous visiting hours, which are 8 to 4, which are always weather dependent.
So in other words, if you really want somebody to, if you have something good and you think that it's going to be somebody's treasure, you should drop it off early in the day.
Yeah,
Because at 3:30, they probably throw away, I'm guessing, what doesn't get taken at the take.
They do. That's what their preference is, particularly when they're down staff. Some, as a user of it for 20 years, sometimes they'll leave it over from one day to the next, like from a Saturday to a Sunday, and then grab it all on Sunday because they're closed Monday and Tuesday.
Right.
So there are those instances when there's good weather, i.e. the summer or a nice day in the spring or whatever, where they'll leave it there. But for the most part, they want to kind of have the place cleaned and hit the reset button for the next morning. So they're hitting the reset button at 3:30 in the evening the night, or 3:30 in the afternoon the day before. But once we get back up to full complement, they'll hit the reset button in the morning because they actually start work at 7.
Is there a way to let people know that have, like with the City Hall
We're working on that,
systems?
most likely through a Facebook page.
Okay.
Because a lot of people hit Duxbury Helping Duxbury, hey, is the mall open today? In fact, if you're like
I was
me, you
just
see it
wondering.
out there all the time.
I mean, we put our email into the, buy the transfer station sticker. I didn't know if there's a way we could just do a blast to the people that purchase transfer stickers about that.
It takes somebody to man that, and we don't man that on the weekends.
Oh, I just meant about this new thing about the 3:30.
Oh, this is all be on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, everything I'm telling you right now. I've already sent Suzanne a copy of it, so hopefully it'll make the paper. But yeah, everything I'm telling you will be on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I was going to tell you that at the end, but there you go. Water Department hydrant flushing. Beginning on Monday, May 13th, the Duxbury Water Department will commence annual flushing of the water distribution's high-pressure zone in the northwest section of town. These flushing activities will continue for several weeks and will be done during the hours of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Additional updates will be posted on the Water Department website and a message board on the Tarkhill Community Center. This activity will cause varying degrees of discolored water and pressure fluctuations. Water users should check both hot and cold water before use, especially for laundering purposes. The flushing of water mains is a necessary function to improve the water quality and maintenance of the water distribution system. The discolored water is caused by iron and manganese that are common to groundwater and accumulates in the pipes over time. Official notice from the DPW office will be posted on the DPW website, along with the DEP flushing fact sheet, the pressure zone map on the website, and will be provided to the Clipper as well. There is an email address that people can send an email to, which is water@duxbury-ma.gov. We apologize for any inconvenience this necessary work may cause. If some of you were watching Duxbury Helping Duxbury on or about Wednesday, April 24th at 7:12 a.m., there was a lot of discussion about a water main break that occurred. It was a huge break. It took several days to clean it up. I jumped into the conversation, provided as much information as we could, also gave people the email address that I just gave you, posted it on the link. It took a lot longer for people to get clear water because the system hadn't been flushed in that aspect for over 5 years. So the turbidity of the water being opened at such a large break caused a lot of problems. They had the situation remedied that day, but the after effect was discolored water for probably 4 to 5 days. So again, the Water Department did a terrific job fielding all those inquiries in them, and what it did was help us pinpoint and isolate those areas that needed either further flushing, and we were moving the hydrants, opening the hydrants around as much as we could. So it did get resolved, but it just took longer than we had preferred.
And there's no health issue involved in drinking, it's just discolored.
Correct. It looks ugly. It's brown.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. But most people don't want to drink brown water, and I can't say I don't blame them. But no, we were not on a boil water notice or anything like that. It's simply the iron and the manganese in the pipe itself. And the final update I have is on the Duxbury Police Department. We were going to put this in the announcements, but we didn't get we received notice, but we were too late to get it into there. So the Duxbury Police Department is hosting an open house on Saturday, May 11th from 10 to 2 p.m. There will be fun activities for the whole family. And with that, you have my update.
Randy, with that water main break, what was the cause of that?
The material underneath the pipe itself, there was, believe it or not, there was a large rock that became dislodged, I believe, and that's what caused when the pressure came through, it jarred the pipe, hit the rock, and the rock cracked. That's right. It was just a matter of time. It just happened to be that day, that morning.
So it was a piece of PVC pipe, right?
No.
No?
Ductile iron.
Ductile iron, okay.
Wait a minute.
Well, I thought it was PVC from the picture.
It might have been. Yeah.
It was PVC.
Was it? Yeah, that's what it was. So.
Okay.
Which is unusual, but anyway.
It is, yeah, because there's usually more flex in it.
Right, yeah.
Committee.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Randy? Or things you'd like on future agendas or anything like that?
we
I
just
know,
have our
it's
list.
too late to even think about it.
All right.
DEI obviously will, I'd like to get
I
that.
think you could email Rainey. if you
Get
got
it back
some
on,
things.
and we could have it first on the agenda.
You got it.
Yeah, that's right. You get booted to the back end once.
That's how we do it.
Makes you in the front the next time.
Front the next time, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no
All right.
problem. Work on that.
Committee appointments, reappointments, and resignations.
I move that the Duxbury Select Board appoint or reappoint the following people to the following boards for the following terms. Alternative Energy Committee, John Barrett and Deborah Donovan for a term ending June 30, 2027. Coastal Resiliency Task Force, Kristen Rapp for a term ending June 30, 2025. CPC, Community Preservation Committee, Robert Tagg Carpenter to fill an unexpired term as the Planning Board Representative, expiring June 30, 2025. Historical Commission, Andrew Burns and Brendan Wall, with terms expiring June 30, 2027. Metropolitan Area Planning Council representatives, Lauren Soroy as the delegate and Kristen Rapp as the alternate, with terms ending June 30, 2027. The Old Colony Planning Council, Allison Shane, for a term ending June 30, 2027. The Open Space Committee, Wayne Dennison, to fill an unexpired term for the Planning Board representative for a term ending June 30, 2025. The Plymouth County Advisory Board, Michael McGee as the delegate, Brian Glennon as the alternate for terms ending June 30, 2025. I don't think we have to recuse ourselves from that. And a resignation, Tag Carpenter from the Historic Commission, effective June 30, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Nope.
All those in...
Thank you for everybody who's volunteering.
Yes.
Aye.
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 The following boards and committees have the following seats available: Economic Advisory Committee, Finance Committee, Fiscal Advisory Committee, Historic Commission, King Caesar Advisory Committee, Nuclear Advisory Committee, all with one seat. If anyone is interested in volunteering on a board or committee, you are encouraged to fill out a talent bank form, which can be found on the town's website under the Forms and Documents tab.
I think we might add that we now have a MBTA task force. We also have a Halls Corner task
That's right.
force. If you're interested in those, you should also fill in the talent bank because we have 8 at-large seats between the 2 of them.
Right.
And we have some very talented people in this community. We also, is that thing on Thursday night? Is that,
Volunteer night?
has that been circulated?
Who's
To the volunteers.
going to be attending from the select board?
I will
All
be
of
there.
us,
All of
right?
us. I've got another commitment, but I might be a bit late.
Okay. For the public, there's a appreciation for volunteers for our
Yeah.
boards and committees who are very valued in this community.
By the way, feedback is that that's a really nice thing what has been organized.
Yes,
It's
this
much
is nice. I
appreciated.
don't remember one
No,
of these
that-
before,
that
so this is
was,
very nice.
Yeah, well, coming from one of the committees I'm liaison with, they're really quite impressed with it, so well done.
I can't take credit.
It's all her.
No, there's no I in this team, it's me and Jeannie and Kim.
None of that's me. It's all them.
Okay, well,
Credit is due to them.
Well,
well
thank you,
done.
Nancy.
Well done.
Excellent.
It is much appreciated.
Yeah, nature.
All right.
All right, now we have an
And
event
permit.
permit.
I move that Ms. Tammy Herschel, as representative of Ragnar Events LLC, is granted permission to conduct a portion of their Ragnar Relay New England 2024 in the town of Duxbury on Saturday, May 18th, 2024, from 3:30 a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m., contingent upon the conditions of the permit.
Second.
Can we talk about this
Yeah,
a little bit?
discussion, yeah.
Yep, so this is one where I tried to link this to a charity of some type, and I cannot find a link to any type of charity or nonprofit. There is a cost for each team to join this. I did find it's a couple $1,000s. And it kind of, again, raises the question, because I know members of the public in the past have raised concerns about the implications of these races on Saturdays in town, and, busy, you're trying to get to the dump, you're trying to get to the beach, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to point out those things.
Is it?
And
So these events, do we have, as a select board, a policy or requirement that these are nonprofit charity organizations that do this?
No. Nope.
We don't, and are you implying that we need one, Amy, or?
Well, I am just bringing up the fact that residents have shared their concerns with us about the disruption to their neighborhoods when we grant a lot of these races. And I think a lot of times, when they're local or they're charitable events, I think it is it's a different thing. I'm much more apt to say, okay, well, it's a little disruption or a little bit of inconvenience,
Right.
is such a good cause and this is a great thing, or there's a lot of community, if it's a town race or a town event, then, but for this type of thing, it does seem like a disruption, and I'm not sure what benefit the town gets from any of this, if any benefit at all. So I'm just raising it. Again, it's late.
No, and I think you also raised a good point about disruption of the town. This is this is at 3:30 in the morning.
3:30 until
3:30
when?
to 11 a.m.
And it's going to be going down right down Tremont Street, right down St. George, down Washington, back up Chestnut and onto 3A, and then straight, it looks like somewhere along,
This is a yearly race, right? I seem to remember the last year and the year before, all these people running around looking totally fatigued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you yearning to join them?
No. I'm just wondering who.
He was handing water as they ran by.
They ran by, but it looks like a. So who are these Ragnar people then? It's just a
I mean, do we have any?
I just looked it up on Wikipedia. They were founded in 2004, an outfit out of Utah. Ragnar is a Norse word that means warrior.
Right.
It's just a racing company.
So people just pay. People pay for the honor.
It's a team event. Yeah, they pay a couple $1,000s and.
So and obviously they run not just through Duxbury, but it must be through what, Marshfield and multiple towns.
They used to give it to Oldwell, and it was a charity we supported. I think they do support other charities.
Do they support a charity?
No, it does not say anything about that. Nope.
No. What's our screening process as far as anything? Do we ask people, like what they do, what all these questions that we're asking?
No. If you want to have a race, you can have a race. It doesn't matter whether you're profit or non-profit.
Okay.
We worry about mechanics. That's our sole function.
And they pay for any
Details,
services?
you bet. Yeah,
Okay.
they're on the hook for all that.
Is there a cost to the event permit as a whole?
What do they cost? Anything?
Oh, it's just $30
Yeah.
basically.
Oh, Jesus.
Because
It's a
they
fee.
pay for all,
But they foot the bill
police
in.
detail
Yeah.
and fire detail.
Yeah.
So they
Police and
pay-
fire take a look at it, Board of Health. we all-
So it's a bit of income for the town.
Yes.
There's no income for the town. There's
What?
$30.
It would be, if there was, it would be ancillary in terms of, if you, for instance, what's the bike race that Tom Brady used to do?
En masse?
Yeah, sometimes they'll have a team set up in different places, and they may have some kind of an offshoot expense, like at the Duxbury General Store or whatever, where they go buy water, but that's a reach. So what do we make, $30? And they-
Is that all?
Yeah, and they foot the bill for
They pay for the bill for everything else, so they pay for overtime and.
And there's
stuff
no
like
way to make money off of these things, no contribution. We could ask these organizations to make some.
$500, see what happens, see if they're still around. But you'll also kill any local incentive.
Right. You have to be
Have some
even-handed.
kids set up lemonade stands, get an ice cream truck parked there somewhere.
You could actually do that anyway.
We can have, enterprising folks in Duxbury, I'm sure, can.
I know this was back in April, and Lieutenant Jamali had no issues, but he wanted them to contact to go over everything. Do we have any other issues about this time, or I know they're talking about 3 details here.
It's a Saturday, and then that's just to do traffic, and they're all done by noon.
Right, and there are no closures.
No.
Right,
I don't
it's
know.
early in the
Usually
morning.
require that they don't, yeah, because it starts at 3 a.m. till 11 a.m.
They're just running along the side of the road, that's all.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm only raising concerns because concerns have been raised to us as a board about these disruptions and, you know, what is our policy or what is, and I'm just pointing out that this one doesn't have a charitable component or some of the other things that I think we weigh.
That doesn't have a charitable component.
No. What does?
So, Amy, maybe you should share this because you brought this up, right? And so I'm trying to figure out, we don't have a policy, we don't have clarity around this, right? I don't want to pick on Ragnar. I want to be able to say, this town, we only allow X, Y, and Z, right? If we're going to say, why are we picking on Ragnar we need to check it out, right? I'm having difficulty I'd like to support this, but I'd like to have a frame by which we support it. So I'd rather table this discussion about developing a policy.
That's fine, we can do that. I mean,
By the way,
That's
I
on
have
the
on the
18th.
long-range agenda for over a year.
Yeah.
And if you decide to do that, it's going straight to the Highway Safety Committee.
Yeah, okay,
That's
good.
where that begins.
Well, good. So let's.
that's perfect, that's
Yeah.
fine.
And I think, unfortunately, this one is up on May 18th. I'm sure I know.
I can support this only if we commit to handing this question that Amy's risen to Highway Safety Committee to come back. Along with the 25-mile-an-hour one that's still pending. But anyway, that's a different subject. Totally different subject. Does that work for everybody?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think it's a great idea.
Second.
Yeah.
Aye. And all in favor, yes.
Aye.
Aye. Good discussion. I know it's after 10 here.
Announcements?
Yeah.
Announcements.
Announcements. Joanne Moore, COA Director and Age and Dementia Friendly Task Force, have been working with Joanne Zeigment from the OCPC, Old Colony Planning Council, to create an age and dementia action plan to make Duxbury livable for people of all ages and abilities. Please make time to review the report, send comments to Joanne Moore by May 24, when the public comment period closes. Copies of the report are located at Town Hall, the Duxbury Free Library, and the Senior Center. It is also available online by going to duxburyseniorcenter.org. Comments can be sent to Joanne Moore, that's JoanneMoore, at duxbury-mass.gov, or call her with comments at 781-934-5774, extension 5700. There will be public presentations about this plan as follows. May 8th at 9:30 a.m. at community input meetings at Duxbury Senior Center. There is a Zoom link available for those unable to attend in person. If you would like to attend by Zoom, please email Joanne Moore, and the link will be sent to you. The second meeting will be held on May 14th at 6:30 p.m., community input meeting at the Duxbury Free Library. Once all comments have been reviewed, a final report will be presented to the Select Board for acceptance at their meeting on July 8th at 7 p.m. in the Mural Room. The next scheduled Select Board meeting will be on Monday, May 13th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
All right. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.